evening, everyone, and welcome to the City Council closed session of Tuesday, March 1st, 2022. I now call the meeting to order. What we're going to do, it's a little bit unusual, but we're going to open the closed session. We're going to adjourn the closed session to after the open session, and then we'll start as if it's a regular meeting at 6 o'clock. Madam Clerk, would you please call the voice roll for the closed session?
Councilmember Chavez?
Here.
Councilmember Gameros?
Present.
Councilmember Harlan?
Here.
Councilmember Harper?
Here.
Councilmember Reynolds?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar?
Here.
Good. Mayor Stevens?
Here.
And let the record reflect that Mayor Pro Tem Mar is participating via Zoom.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, so now we're going to have public comments. Public comments are for 3 minutes, and when it has to do with closed session, it's only public comments pertaining to the matter that is on the closed session calendar, which is our matter against Newport Mesa Unified School District. So does anybody in the chambers wish to speak at public comment on closed session? I don't see anybody. So I'm going to call that. How about on Zoom, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor, we have none.
Okay, that's great. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title?
Closed session, item 1 is conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, one case pursuant to California Government Code Section 54956.9 D1, City of Costa Mesa versus Newport Mesa Unified School District, Orange County Superior Court case. Thank you.
Thank you. So the City Council will now recess the closed session until after the conclusion of our regular council meeting. So now I'm going to call to order the regular meeting of the City Council and successor agency to the Redevelopment Agency and Housing Authority, meeting of March 1st, 2022. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll for our regular meeting?
Councilmember Chavez?
Here.
Councilmember Gameros?
Present.
Councilmember Harlan?
Here.
Councilmember Harper?
Here.
Councilmember Reynolds?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar?
Here.
Mayor Stevens?
Still here. Okay, wonderful. Now it's time for the national anthem. Everybody stand for that, and then we're going to have Councilmember Reynolds lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, so remain standing. Madam Clerk, would you please play the video for the national anthem?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Now it's time for a moment of solemn expression. led by Pastor Christine Knopf from Redemption Church. Can we take Pastor Knopf off Zoom to lead us in a moment of solemn expression?
Hello, good evening. I'm glad to be with you. In our Christian tradition, this is what we call Fat Tuesday, or the night before Lent starts. And I just want to call our attention to Lent as the season where we prepare ourselves and remind ourselves that from death comes life, and that resurrection is possible, and the things that seem impossible in a community, in our lives, can be overcome and resurrected. And so as we, as a community, draw our attention to the things happening in our city tonight, and we are so aware of things happening around the world, particularly the war in the Ukraine, I just want to read a blessing over the world and over our community out of the Beatitudes in Matthew 5. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And for you, Mayor, and our council members, as you step into the decisions that you are making this evening, I just want to speak a blessing from the Proverbs over you that simply says, may wisdom and good judgment be like charms around your neck. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Pastor Knopf. I appreciate it. So I'm sure you know and have heard that we in our community suffered a loss, the death in a tragic helicopter accident of Officer Nicholas Vela, a 14-year veteran of the Huntington Beach Police Department. I'm not sure everybody knows that the Huntington Beach Police Department also serves Costa Mesa and Newport Beach. So Officer Vela served our community, and it's tragic loss for the Huntington Beach Police Department and everybody in our region. So what I'd like to do is just have a moment of silence for Officer Vela. Thank you. Okay, we have 4 presentations tonight. The first one is the recognition, and we have the boards up, so I'm sure you can see recognition of Costa Mesa Fire Captain Mike Kriza Memorial Highway. So that's certainly something to recognize. I want to introduce Chief Stefano. Before I do, just some personal remarks. Captain Kriza, of course, and he's got a beautiful family. It was tragically taken from us in November of 2018. I'll never forget it. I remember it like it was yesterday. Not only the accident and, of course, his death, but also the way that the firefighters and the fire department rallied for each other, to support each other, and to support his family. And it was really quite something to see that. And I know you all were hurting, and the tragedy really revealed, I think, a lot of how lucky we are to have a department with such compassion and love, and you guys care about each other like brothers, and it really came through. And then in terms of Chief Stefano, who I'm going to introduce in a moment, just the leadership, the tenderness, the compassion that he showed for the members of the department and the family, it was really quite something to see. I don't think I've seen leadership of that caliber before or since. So it's with that I'd like to introduce our great fire chief, Dan Stefano.
Thank you so much, Mayor Stevens, and I appreciate those kind comments. Council members, City Manager Farrell Harrison, city staff, and our community. I appreciate this opportunity to speak a little bit about a very special moment in time for us. It's a celebration. It's been over 3 years since we lost Captain Mike Kriza, one of the most tragic times in our history. But as life so goes, it's how you respond to those tragedies. And we've been blessed with the community outreach and outpouring of support from day one, and across really the region. Internally, in terms of the fire family, I mean, those types of things can tear a family apart, and that's what we are, a fire family, or make you stronger. And there's never been a point in time where we have been stronger, and it's continued to keep us strong since. So again, today's one of those lights that comes out, and one of those special tributes that we're able to have, and again, share with Mike Kriza, his family, share with our fire family, the Costa Mesa family. That's what this tribute really is all about. And so with that, I think the best way, and a lot of people made this possible, I'd like to just start, and I think real quickly, I want to introduce some of our folks here. I'm going to have them come up, but we have our command staff here. Chiefs, if I could have you come up for a moment in time. Our Division Chief of Operations, Jason Pyle, Battalion Chief Bill Kershaw, Battalion Chief Chris Coates, Fire Marshal John Neal, Battalion Chief Tim Basson, who's not here tonight. Also like to bring up our Costa Mesa Firefighters Association President, new President, Steve Cathy, one of our captains. Come on up. And we have a number of our crews and personnel that are here as well, just representing our department. So again, I think a great way to key this up, just for those folks who know a little bit about the story, but just provide just some excerpts. I know Mayor Stevens likes the whereas, but I'm going to just pull a few excerpts and speak about the Senate concurrent resolution that we're going to have a chance to have Senator Bates speak to, that she was instrumental in bringing it forward. So I just want to read a few of the excerpts to kind of set the tone for this. Whereas the untimely passing of Costa Mesa Fire and Rescue Captain Michael Kriza at 44 years of age on November 5th, 2018 has brought a sense of immense sorrow and loss to people throughout California. And whereas Fire Captain Michael Kriza was a distinguished California firefighter and much-loved family man whose character, integrity, and singular commitment earned him the respect and admiration of his fellow firefighters, the members of the greater Costa Mesa community, and the countless other individuals whose lives he touched. Whereas the people of California have a special and enduring respect for the valiant individuals who daily commit themselves to the often perilous duties performed by firefighters, and the exceptional respect Fire Captain Kriza had earned among his fellow firefighters and within the city of Costa Mesa, bears testament to the positive impact he had in his community and in the lives of his fellow firefighters by virtue of his estimable character, leadership, and sincere concern for others. And whereas Fire Captain Michael Kriza exemplified all the best attributes of a professional firefighter who was known to be the heart of his family and who leaves to mourn his passing and celebrate his legacy, his devoted wife Shanna, his daughters Kaylee, Layla, and Audrey, who to my left are in this picture that we were able to do in a family unveiling this past week, and the members of the Costa Mesa Fire and Rescue Department and Fire Family, all of whom have had the good fortune to share his company during his all too brief time with them. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate of the State of California, the Assembly thereof concurring, that the legislature expresses its deepest sympathy at the passing of Fire Captain Michael Kriza of the Costa Mesa Fire and Rescue Department, and by this resolution memorializes him for his exemplary record of personal, professional, and civic achievements, as well as the love and devotion he shared with his family and friends by designating the portion of State Route 55 from 19th Street to MacArthur Boulevard in the County of Orange as the Costa Mesa Fire Captain Michael Kriza Memorial Highway. I think that really sets the tone for the background of how we got here. It's certainly, as I shared, it's something that we're grateful for. Shanna is grateful for. Shanna's not able to be here tonight. She's actually at a week-long widow's retreat that was pre-planned. And so we had the opportunity this past week to do a small family unveiling of it for her and the girls, which was really very special for her, and she was very appreciative. But again, it's something that we appreciate his legacy to live on for decades to come. I do want to share a quote from Shanna that she wanted to share with everyone. This is direct from Shanna. The girls and I are honored to share this tribute of the Memorial Highway in honor of our favorite man, Mike Kriza. He was an extraordinary firefighter that served his community extremely well, but was an even better husband and father. I pray that each time you pass this sign, you'll be reminded to smile big, love hard, and live like Mike. Again, we talk about things that come and how you respond, and our lives are all about recovery. It's not the challenges or the emergencies that we face as professional firefighters, but it's how we respond to those and how we recover. And I think we've done a great job. We've had an incredible amount of support, and we are so grateful for this legacy. I want to, before we get to hearing from a couple of the dignitaries that made this possible, I want to bring up Steve Cathy. Steve Cathy is a fire captain for us. He's the president of the Firefighters Association, and he was one of Mike Kriza's best friends, so I wanted to have him come up and say a couple of words.
Good evening, City Council staff, distinguished guests, and the citizens of the community in which we serve. Like the Chief said, my name is Steve Cathy. I'm the president of Costa Mesa Firefighters Local 1465. On behalf of our firefighters that serve the community and Shanna and the girls, we have a heartfelt thank you for this recognition ceremony. This is emotional. This has been 3 years now. Mike was my best friend, my boss, and a great coworker. Just like everybody else in here that's showing support. We go out numerous times throughout the year and we visit with Shanna and the girls, and this memorial ceremony for them of seeing the sign on the side of the freeway is very heartfelt welcome by them. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Steve. And as he said, the fire family rallied around the family and still is there today. There are a number of individuals who are close. I see Captain Brett Turner out in the audience, Jeremy Jimenez. I could go down a list of individuals and their families that have just wrapped their hands around to provide that love and support that continues. As far as this, getting to this point of recognizing the memorial, it was brought forward by Senator Pat Bates, who we have the distinct pleasure to have here tonight with us. It was within a couple of months I was reached out to by her office and Eric Weigen in particular, and I appreciated that reach out. And we've been in touch over the course of the past 3.5 years. And through that process, that she was such an incredible steward to get through, and along with Senator Morlock at the time, and Connie Petrie-Norris on the Assembly side stepped in. That support was incredible. It has meant a great deal. And to get that through the legislature that's what it takes. We realized soon after that piece happened, we realized there was a cost involved, and like good government, the state doesn't pay for it. And so we realized we needed to work on donations and raising money. So we worked with the Costa Mesa Community Foundation. The Fire and Rescue Department has a branch of that. They did an incredible job. And so through that mechanism, we were able to raise $17,000, which is the cost of it to have happen. So I want to just acknowledge the community, or the Costa Mesa Community Foundation, and what a great partner they've been to help us get to this point. So with that, I would like to bring up Senator Pat Bates, who flew in late today for this opportunity. I know she's busy up in Sacramento, but jumped on a plane and is here today, and we're so grateful, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Chief, for that nice introduction. I just want to say that it's certainly my honor to be invited to join you this evening for this dedication. Very poignant moment, very sad when we presented the resolution, but I had the pleasure and the privilege actually to introduce the Senate concurrent resolution in honor of Captain Kriza. who was a resident of Rancho Santa Margarita, a constituent of mine in South Orange County, Senate District 36. And I was joined, of course, in that with my good colleagues, former Senator John Morlock and Assembly Member Cotty Petrie Norris, and I believe she'll have some things to say too. It was certainly an effort from our heart and certainly our soul as we see this fine young man no longer with us, no longer with your family, but the memory of him and hopefully as a role model will leave an indelible print here in Costa Mesa and throughout South Orange County, and in particular our mobility and understanding that what happened to this young man should never happen again. His character was one of integrity and singular commitment to the Costa Mesa Fire and Rescue, where he earned the respect and admiration of his fellow firefighters, the greater Costa Mesa community, and the countless individuals whose lives he touched. And I believe the resolution in itself, as you just heard it read, captured that essence. No words and no act can ever truly express the gratitude we have for Captain Mike's life of service. However, I hope that naming this section of the highway in his honor will remind people of his commitment to keep Orange County safe, his dedication to that, and his love of his family, friends, and his community. These memorial signs will show our community that we stand united in honoring those throughout the public safety profession, our frontline responders, and recognize the sacrifices that they make every day on our behalf as they put their own lives in harm's way for us. I am pleased that after several years of hard work, these signs will be assembled by Caltrans officials in the coming weeks, and may Michael's memory inspire and encourage others to become a role model like him for the present and the future generations. And again, thank you so much for letting me be part of tonight's dedication. I had to press a little bit to be able to come down, but at the last minute, they approved my absence. So I'm here with you, and I said, you know what, you guys, I'm going anyway. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Senator Bates. And now we have Assemblymember Cotty Petrie Norris, a video message. She was not able to get a pass to leave, so.
Good evening. This is Assembly Works that went through our entire.
Good to go.
Good evening. This is Assemblywoman Cotty Petrie Norris. Thank you for inviting me to join you tonight to recognize the Costa Mesa Fire Captain Michael Kriza Memorial Highway. I vividly remember the shockwaves that went through our entire community when Captain Kriza was so tragically killed in November of 2018. Captain Kriza was a leader in the Costa Mesa Fire Department and a leader throughout the community, much respected and much loved. His death has left a tremendous void for his beloved wife and 3 beautiful daughters, for his brothers and sisters in the Costa Mesa Fire Department, and for the entire city of Costa Mesa. I'm grateful that the state of California can honor this hero with the Costa Mesa Fire Captain Michael Kriza Memorial Highway. And my hope and prayer is that Captain Kriza's memory and his lifetime of service continue to inspire others for generations to come.
And I believe, do we have Teddy? Are you? Yes, I have a certificate. Okay. Sure, Teddy, come on up. We've got Teddy Lopez here, a neighbor here and resident in Costa Mesa, has a presentation.
On behalf of the California State Assembly, we would like to present this certificate dedicating the Captain Kriza Memorial Highway to the fire department in the city of Costa Mesa.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And now we have another individual that's here. This is no stranger to Costa Mesa, former mayor, current supervisor here in our county of Orange, Supervisor Katrina Foley.
Thank you. And, you know, this is a long time coming, so I know how honored you all are here today to be able to have this Memorial Highway named after Captain Mike. I'm Katrina Foley, I'm your county supervisor, and I knew Ironman Mike, and as I sat here tonight listening, I couldn't help but get this sick feeling in my stomach, because I remember that day when Mayor Stevens and I, at the time, not Mayor Stevens, we were out walking precincts, and we got the call about how this horrible tragedy had occurred. And so we stopped everything, we rushed down to the hospital, and it was quite an amazing, while sad, but just an amazing experience, because the love, the brotherhood in the room, it was something that I had never experienced before. And I remember that, and I still have that feeling right now, and I remember that Mayor Stevens and I, we sat there and we touched Captain Mike, and Mayor Stevens said a prayer, and we said our goodbyes. And it was probably one of the most excruciatingly emotional experiences I had ever had as a public official. And then for the celebration of his life, it was just so touching and amazing. And I know that Captain Ironman Mike has made such an impact here in Costa Mesa. I mean, I first met him when he was volunteering, and he was the chair of the charity fund for the Fire Association. And we were doing the letters to Santa, and he was in, his uniform with his little girl, and we were riding in the fire truck delivering gifts to the families in need in Costa Mesa. And so I will never forget that experience. And it also showed me just how strong our Costa Mesa family is here in Costa Mesa. So I want to thank you all for letting us into your family that day. And then I have this resolution for you, Chief, for the fire department. I just want to read a little part of it. Whereas Fire Captain Michael Kriza exemplified all the best attributes of the Costa Mesa Fire and Rescue Department: respect, integrity, compassion. And whereas Captain Michael Ironman Kriza's tragic death at the hands of a drug-impaired driver still seems senseless, but we hope this permanent public recognition will help remind us of his life, his family's sacrifice, and the need for reforms to prevent future lives lost too short. May Captain Kriza's bright smile and legacy of love, hard work, and care shine forever in the minds of his family and all who knew him. Now therefore be it resolved that I, on behalf of the County of Orange, express our deepest sympathy to the family of Fire Captain Michael Kriza of the Costa Mesa Fire and Rescue Department, and by this resolution memorialize him for his exemplary record of personal, professional, and civic achievements, as well as the love and devotion he shared with his family and friends, and his commitment to respect, integrity, and compassion. Thank you, and it's just wonderful that we get to have this, and thank you, Senator Bates, for suggesting that the state allow this. Thank you.
All right, now I'd like to invite everyone and council to come up, and we're going to take a big group picture right near the, right in front where we usually do that.
Mayor Stevens, as you make your way down and we get everyone down, if you would indulge for one last, when we get everyone down, we have our chaplain, Josh Harrison, and just to, Mike was a great man of faith as well. So when we get everyone down here together, if we can have him step up and just say a blessing for this incredible legacy. Come on down. And our fire family, come on down. Clear the rows. Now with everyone down, we're going to say a prayer and then we'll jump into the picture right after.
Okay, let's pray. Father, we come to you tonight with hearts full. It's a heavy night in many ways, but we also stand here, Lord, grateful for the memories. You call us often in your word to remember the stories that have shaped us, to remember that we are all connected to something bigger than ourselves, that we're part of a story, we're part of a legacy, and we are here tonight with full hearts because of the legacy that Mike Kriza has left in this community and the lives of so many people gathered here. And we honor that legacy now, and it's fitting that we honor it not just in our minds, but in a place with a marker that we'll all see. So Lord, as we drive by this sign often, some of us multiple times a day, would we remember this man who has invested so much? Would you bless everyone who travels this road? Would you provide safety on the Mike Kriza Memorial Highway? God, will we also not just think about his legacy, but our own? That we're all connected to one another and that the story is ongoing. And would we continue to strive, Lord, to invest the same qualities that he brought to us into the lives of those around us? Faithfulness, service, compassion, and love. We're grateful, Lord. We pray all this in your name. Amen.
Tall guys in the back. Tall guys like
Yeah, let's go.
Some of you younger bucks like it. There you go.
Thanks, guys.
Sorry, I will switch on the audience video.
All right, thank you for everybody who participated in that. That was very meaningful. Thank you. So we have two more proclamations and then one more brief presentation. The next proclamation is for Women's History Month. March is Women's History Month. Women's History Month allows us to highlight the extraordinary American women and girls who have helped shape and improve our nation. Now I'm going to read, so we did a proclamation. I'm going to read some excerpts from that proclamation. The National Women's History Alliance designates a yearly theme for Women's History Month. The theme this year is providing healing and promoting hope. This year's theme is a tribute to the ceaseless work of caregivers and frontline workers during the COVID-19 pandemic, to recognize the thousands of ways the women of all cultures have provided both healing and hope throughout history, and especially in the last 2 years. I encourage Costa Mesa residents to observe this month and pay tribute to the women who enrich our society through civic action, so many of them here today, including on the dais. And we saw great women, both on video and in person, speaking to us earlier on the Captain Kriza item. And these women enrich our society through their dedication to community, innovation, peace, and prosperity. So, with that, I think we have a proclamation. Are we going to do a photo or not? No photo? Nobody here to do a photo? That's okay. We don't need to do a photo. We're moving on. By the way, so it's 6:36, and we have to start our public hearing item at 7 o'clock. So if I have to interrupt, we're in the meeting in the middle of something, then you'll know that I'm not being rude, but that's a legal requirement. Okay, the next proclamation is one that I asked us to do, which is a remembrance of the Japanese internment. So this year marks the 80th anniversary of the forced evacuation and incarceration of 120,000 Japanese Americans during World War II. President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066 on February 19th, 1942. And this is personal for me and my family because my father-in-law was born in 1940 on February 18th, and he was a little boy, and his first memories are in an internment camp. And of course, his family was living, my wife's grandparents were living on Terminal Island, and they, like so many Japanese Americans, were taken and interned, and they didn't have any of their possessions or their freedom for many years, and it was many years later that there was some reparations, but it could never repair the damage that was done. The executive order was motivated by fear and discrimination that authorized the forced removal of Japanese Americans from their homes, forcing them into the internment camps in unfamiliar lands. And so we have a proclamation reading some excerpts from that. Today we honor their sacrifice as well as the resilience that made it possible for thousands of Japanese American families to reclaim and rebuild their lives after the war. I ask all Costa Mesa residents to commemorate this injustice against civil liberties of American citizens and to commit to eradicating systemic racism, Asian hate, and to heal generational trauma in our communities. Of course, we have a tremendous Asian community in Costa Mesa, many Japanese Costa Mesa residents, and Costa Mesa is a hub of commerce for the Japanese community with 3 great markets and many great restaurants, and so it's important to remember so it doesn't happen again. 80 years since the Japanese internment. So that's the second proclamation, and again, no picture? Okay. And then the final item is we're lucky enough to have Anaheim City Council member Grant Henninger, who's here by Zoom, and he's going to give us an update on the Orange County Housing Finance Trust. Some of you may remember that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was 2018, 2019 when the Housing Trust was adopted by the state, and we are a member of the Housing Trust. I had some involvement in that when I was on the ACCOC Homelessness Task Force, the chairman of that. And so let's see how it's going. Council member, you have the floor.
Mr. Henninger, if you could press *6 to unmute yourself, please. I believe he's on his phone tonight.
Yeah, too late. Too late.
Yeah, he's not. Sir, can you press *6? He's having problems unmuting himself. I'm sorry.
Still having trouble?
Yes, he is.
So what are we going to do? We're going to skip it?
Why don't we go ahead and go on to public comments?
Yeah, let's do that. And then when we get everything squared away, we'll let the person who's speaking in public comment finish, and then he can come on. Right?
Yes. That would be
All right,
great.
that's perfect. All right, then let's do that. We'll go on to public comments. Public comments will be heard at this time. 3 minutes is the limit. You cannot speak to items that are on the agenda. So if you're here to talk to an agenda item, wait till that item comes up. This public comments is about items that are not on the agenda. You've got 3 minutes, and then you get cut off. You get a warning at 2.5 minutes, or 2 minutes. You get a 1 minute warning or 1 minute warning. You get a 1 minute warning. So when you hear the warning, try to wrap it up. We'll go for comments inside the chambers first, then we'll go on Zoom. Does anybody have public comments inside the chambers? Yes, ma'am, you have the floor.
There we go. Good evening, members of the City Council and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is Jen Tanaka. My full name is Jennifer Lee Emiko Tanaka, and I'm a Yonsei, or a fourth-generation Japanese American. I'm here to express my gratitude to the city for recognizing a day of remembrance of the Japanese American internment camps and the Japanese Americans who, despite this injustice, chose to serve in the armed forces to defend this country from tyranny. My grandmother, Masako Nagao, an American citizen, was 20 years old when a United States soldier arrived at her home in Los Angeles and told her that she and her parents needed to immediately pack their things and prepare for relocation. She would eventually find herself in Manzanar, where she would stay for about 8 months before leaving to enroll in the University of Maryland. College students at that time were permitted to leave the camps to enroll in college, provided that their school of choice was nowhere near the West Coast. My grandfather, Chester Tanaka, also an American citizen and who had not met my grandmother at that point, wanted to join the fight. When the war broke out, he had already graduated from college, attained a law degree and a pilot's license, but when he volunteered for the Air Force, he was denied. So he tried the Navy and was also denied. And then he reluctantly tried the Army, who curtly told him that he was a 4C enemy alien, despite being an American citizen by birth and in every attitude, and could not serve. A little more than a year later, the Army reversed itself, and my grandfather joined the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. One thing missing from the city's proclamation is that the overwhelming majority of Japanese American volunteers were placed in segregated Japanese-only units, and the 442nd was one of them. And the 442nd, along with the 100th Infantry Battalion, another segregated Japanese-only unit, went on to become the most decorated military unit in United States history, earning more than 4,000 Purple Hearts, 4,000 Bronze Stars, and 21 Medals of Honor. My grandfather would go on to write the book Go for Broke, which is a pictorial history of the 442nd and its many accomplishments. After the war, my grandparents met when they were mutually drawn to the cause of justice for Japanese Americans, both those who were interned as well as those whose lives were upended by wartime policies. So in a very real sense, I would not be here today if these events did not happen, but they did. and we must continue saying that they happened here in a free country, in this state, and they must never happen again. Thank you for your moving proclamation on behalf of myself and my family.
Thank you. Does anyone else in the chambers wish to speak on public comment? Sir, you have the floor.
Good evening, City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Matt Garcia, and I'm a Costa Mesa resident and president of the Harbor Soaring Society. Thank you also for the vote on September 21st, 2021 to permit glider flying to resume at Fairview Park while the master plan process takes place. We continue to look forward to returning to fly gliders at Fairview Park. No flying has occurred since March of 2020, 2 years ago. We do not understand the current timeline to resume glider flying. We believe Council provided clear guidance that glider flying was to resume at its current location in Fairview Park while the master plan process was conducted and alternative sites investigated. We have prepared what we believe are fair and simple revisions to the 3 documents governing flying at Fairview Park, and we have provided them to city staff. We can also send copies to Council via email if helpful. The Council's amendments were very simple and elegant, requiring minimal revisions. The model flying members of Costa Mesa have been caring stewards of Fairview Park continuously since 1963, 59 years. And we participate in many STEM activities like Imaginology. We will continue to participate. We are participating this year in Imaginology. In Costa Mesa and throughout Orange County, we have a long positive relationship with the city, and we look forward to collaboration with the city and other groups in the city and members of the community. Please feel free to reach out to me via email. City staff has my email. We would greatly appreciate quick execution of the vote from September 21st, 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else in the chambers wish to speak at public comment? Yes, sir. If you want to speak at public comment, stand in line, and then we'll get right to you. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Chris Coram. I'm a long-term resident of Costa Mesa. Been here since 1962. I'm an old school Shalimar. On November 23rd, my home, 360 La Pearl Place, had a small kitchen fire, my back unit. I was at my cabin in Green Valley Lake, 90 miles away at the time. I drove down to my home with my 14-year-old granddaughter. We arrived at this home at 360 La Pearl Place when the fire was extinguished. Walked into the backyard of my fire and met with the fire chief, Chris Coates. I asked he thought this started this fire. He said, this would be on my report. He was very short with me, which I found kind of disturbing because my house had just burned. Then I met with the fire inspector, Ryan Bohr. He explained the process of rebuilding the kitchen, the permits that would be required. I walked back, met with Chris Coates as the firemen were finishing up with my fire. He asked if I wanted to walk inside to see the fire damage. I walked up to the front door, poked my head in. I said, man, it sure seems hot. You sure this fire's out with these conditions? He said, of course it's out. He said, are you going to spend the night here? I have 2 units. I have a front unit and a back unit. My front unit was not involved in the first fire, which was a small kitchen fire. So I went back, talked to Ryan Bohr, asked him, are you sure this fire's out? The winds are blowing pretty heavily, and in the Santa Ana conditions, they're not going to come back and check on my unit. He says that's up to the fire captain, whether he wants to come back in these conditions. And I said, well, with these winds, the sustaining winds, I would sure hope they come back and check on my home. I go with my granddaughter. This is midnight at night. I was going to spend the night, decided not to spend the night because I'm okay, let me go on. Let's see. The next morning, I get a call from the fire department or from my neighbors saying that my front house is now on fire. It's a good thing I didn't spend the night. I would have burnt to death, me and my granddaughter. I would have been killed. Saying this, hopefully the city council would be dealing with this with my wife differently if I would have perished. I've made several calls to the city attorney. I've made several calls to you, John Stevens, no return phone calls, spoke to you once. I want to know how I'm supposed to proceed at this. I do not have an attorney. My attorney wanted 10% of my homeowner's insurance, and they want 35 to 40% of my home, which is paid off. I'm retired. I was comfortably retired. Now I have to sell my cabins in the mountains to rebuild my home, which I don't think is fair.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so do we have anybody on Zoom for public comment?
Yes, the first speaker is Hank Castanetti.
Okay, Mr. Castanetti, if you're on Zoom, then just do *6 to speak, right?
No, he's on his computer.
Oh, you're on your computer? Okay, go ahead.
On my computer.
You have the floor, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. My name is Hank Castigetti. I'm Secretary of the Orange County Model Engineers Corporation. I'm watching the meeting tonight on my computer from Hope Hospital, where I'm recuperating from an injury. For that reason, I'll make comments very brief. I didn't want a council meeting to pass without expressing sincere gratitude to the gratitude of the Orange County Model Engineers for the recent generous gift from the city of Costa Mesa in response to the vandalism that occurred at the Goat Hill Junction train station. Special thanks goes out to Mayor Stevens, Council Member Lauren Camaros, and City Manager Lori-Ann Farrell Harrison, who were instrumental in making the city's gracious assistance happen. The club has so far obtained estimates in excess of $10,000 to repair damage caused by vandals, and some projects have already been completed, with other major repairs to begin shortly. The club is currently investigating Wi-Fi options to support a state-of-the-art CCTV security system and has taken other steps to prevent reoccurrence of this wanton vandalism. We would also like to thank the City Public Works Department and Raja Sathuraman, along with Facility Director Bob Ryan, for extensive upgrading of security lighting at the station to meet current standards for all city parks. Additionally, we expect to have our new trestle bridge completed by the end of April through the generous donation of hundreds of citizens of Costa Mesa and Orange County. We gave 3,173 free rides in February, and I expect to exceed that number once the trestle is refinished and we can return to our regular route. Thank you once again to everyone for their continued support of the Goat Hill Junction and Mackerel Flats Railroad, and watch for our involvement with the Love Costa Mesa Day event on May 14th. Thank you once again to one and all. All aboard.
Thank you, Hank, and I hope you feel better. Who do we have next?
Kim Hendricks, please.
Ms. Hendricks, you have the floor.
Okay, and we have a PowerPoint, and first I'd like to tell Mr. Matt Garcia that the substitute motion regarding the flying field, it says to include in the Fairview Park Master Plan update a broader analysis for flying options at the park, identify other potential sites including Fairview Developmental Center, and only permit gliders going forward in the park. And the former flying field was in violation of state and federal laws in and next to a vernal pool. In the Fairview Park Master Plan, it is next to the restrooms. Measure AA calls out for Fairview Park Master Plan as a guideline. So now let's get, this has been a heavy night, and I'm so sorry for a lot of people. And so let's see a little bit of beauty. Here is Fairview Nature Park. This is a grassland looking north. It is going to be restored even more beautifully next. Did you know Fairview Park is located on a mesa top that supports one of the last coastal vernal pool complexes in California? The value of the habitat in the park cannot be overstated. This is from U.S. Fish and Wildlife, February 2nd, 2019. Next. And this is Vernal Pool Complex 123 looking south on the west side. And it is home to many, many species from going from the soil, not only in the vernal pools, but the watershed, the microorganisms, the plants that lead up to a healthy ecosystem. And Costa Mesa is the last place north of San Diego that has these along the coast. Next, please. And here is looking at Vernal Pool Complex 123. You can see how this is in 2017, got a heavy rain. Next. This is on the east side. We have vernal pools on the east side. Next. We have sensitive habitat. This is looking north on the east side. Next. Next. This is also on the east side. We have an endangered species. Next. Next, please. And we have endangered fairy shrimp, San Diego button celery. Next. Prostrate Novaritia. Next. And next, and we have the western bury owls. These migrate, and they are, and regular disturbances decrease the overall biological integrity of the park by favoring species that are more resilient and attracted to urban environments. Species that are more sensitive to disturbances are likely to leave, reducing species diversity. Next. And this, such as California gnatcatcher. Next. And this is a juvenile waiting for its mom. Next.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much, you guys.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hendricks. We have time for one more public comment on Zoom if we have one.
The boatyard, please.
The boatyard, you have the floor.
I want to thank the council for recognizing the role of the Japanese Americans in their suffering and their contributions, especially in the city of Costa Mesa. I want to memorialize the contribution made by Gilbert Iwamoto, Grace Tanaka, and my husband, Wayne Iwamoto. They started boat building in Hawaii, which is where they were from. My father-in-law, Gilbert Iwamoto, was building the PT boats for the Navy. The day after the bombs dropped and he returned to work, he had to wear a black badge that said he was Japanese. He was no longer allowed to earn a living, but he showed up for work, obviously. And then in the evenings, he worked in the he worked an evening job and weekends to earn a living. Over a 10-year period, he saved up $350 in order to come to Costa Mesa, which was the world mecca for boat building, so that he could make a name for himself. He came with his wife and 5-year-old, my husband, in tow, and started at the Chapman Yard, which many of you know is the Boathouse Collective, or was. He purchased the Boatyard, which is at 141 East 16th Street in 1958, and went on to build 100 custom boats for catamarans. Some of them held the Transpac record until Steve Fawcett broke the record. They weren't known for any brands because they were custom boats. They were master craftsmen. They never advertised. Every boat they built was on a handshake based on good faith and integrity. And they launched the first catamaran in history out of Newport Harbor. They aligned themselves with the Hawaiian surfing communities. A lot of the original surfers got their start in the yard. A long, proud legacy. And I just wanted them to be memorialized along with the city's recognition of the Japanese American contribution to our country and to our city. Thank you for recognizing their contribution.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so let's suspend public comment so we can go to public hearing number 1 and start that timely. And then we'll pick up public comment right after we're done with public hearing number 1, and then we'll just move on with our agenda. So,
Mr. Mayor, you can please close public comments. We have no further speakers.
Oh, no further speakers? Okay, we'll close public comments then. That makes it easy. Easier. Okay? So we'll pick up where we left off after we do public hearing number 1. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title?
Thank you. This is the fourth public hearing regarding the redistricting process and first reading and introduction of an ordinance to adopt a council district map entitled An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Costa Mesa, California, adopting a council district map. And if you'll give me 1 minute, we're going to open up the presentation. Okay, thank you. All right. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. For your consideration tonight is the first reading and introduction of an ordinance to adopt a new council district map. As you're aware, this has been a 9-month process with multiple community meetings and public hearings to analyze the 2020 census data and to draw the proposed maps. At the February 15th, 2022 meeting, the City Council unanimously approved proceeding with the proposed Map 115. Map 115 complies with the Federal Voting Rights Act and the California Fair Maps Act. The total deviation of population of the Map 115 is 3.91%, well below the 10% maximum, and contains one district, the District 4, that has a 77% Hispanic population. These new districts will be used for this November 2022 general municipal election. Staff recommends City Council conduct the fourth public hearing to receive additional public input, introduce for first reading the ordinance to adopt a council district map, and schedule March 15, 2022 for the second reading and adoption of the ordinance. Both the city attorney and I are available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So council, do we have any questions for staff on this item? I don't see anybody in the queue. Oh, you have one? Okay. Councilmember Reynolds.
I just had one quick question, and this was on the cost piece, just because I hadn't, maybe hadn't noticed this before. In the fiscal review section, we mentioned a redistricting cost, and I was just curious, is that $80,000 for sort of this whole process, or is that something in addition to completing the process?
That is the cost for the total process.
The whole process. Okay, great.
For the consultant and any additional extra costs we had.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, council? I don't see anybody asking for the floor, so let's open it up to public comment. Does anybody in the chambers wish to speak to this item? I don't see anybody. Going, gone. Do we have anybody on Zoom?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, imagine that. All right, we'll close public comment, and I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, it seems like that's not working tonight.
Is it it's not?
Yeah.
Okay, are we on discussion mode?
Maybe.
No, we're not. It's weird. It's not working.
I see your...
There.
Okay.
Harlan popped up. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
you know what? Hey, hold on. Let's just make this easy. Let's just go to discussion mode. And then if you just want to get the floor, just ask me to the floor. I'll give it to you. So, Councilmember Chavez.
thank you, Mayor Stevens. I'll be very quick. This is a fair and balanced map that I think really puts together the most concise way to represent Costa Mesa without doing too much change, while also reflecting the necessary changes we had to make. So I think it's a good map, and please support the motion.
And so, wait, you're moving to, that's your motion? Yeah. Good stuff. Do we have a second? Okay, second. Councilmember, oh, sorry. Did you want to second it? Mayor Pro Tem Mar?
It's okay. I don't know how well you can hear me, but yeah, I'd like to second it.
Okay, you can go ahead and second it. Is that all right, Councilmember Harlan? Okay, so you seconded it. Do you have anything further to say about your motion, Councilmember Chavez?
I think it's a good motion.
Okay, how about Mayor Pro Tem Mar? Do you have anything to say to support the second?
Nothing further, thank you.
Nothing further. Anybody else? Do you want to say something for the record, Councilmember Harlan or no? Councilmember Harlan's good. Okay, good stuff. Let's call for the question.
Hold on here. Thank you. I'm going to have to do a voice roll call vote because Mayor Pro Tem are. So, Councilmember Reynolds, Councilmember Harlan, Councilmember Chavez.
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros. Yes. Councilmember Harper. Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Mar.
Yes.
And Mayor Stevens.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, so that was a 5-minute public hearing item. I think we deserve a round of applause. 5 minutes, I think that's a record in Costa Mesa. So anyhow, now what we're gonna do is go right back to where we were, and we're gonna have council member committee reports, comments, and suggestions. Leading us off is from District 6, Councilmember Jeffrey Harlan.
Mr. Mayor, did you want to go back to the Orange County Housing Finance Trust update first?
Is he ready?
I don't know.
Mr. Mayor, we are going to reschedule him.
Okay, we're going to reschedule him. All right, you have the floor, Councilmember.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll try to be brief. Despite what seemingly is a light agenda, even though we have a lot of people who just showed up, it's been a bit of a heavy night already, and I can't help but think of what's going on halfway across the world in Ukraine. And generally, I wouldn't even be talking about this because you wonder why it would apply to our local community. But the first thing I read this morning in the Daily Pilot was a feature about a young couple here, Jesse and Jacob Beckman, who were in Ukraine for the birth of their daughter through a Ukrainian surrogate. And this happened at the time of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And it's a harrowing tale. They thankfully have been able to, by all reports, get out of Ukraine and are in Poland and awaiting a safe return to the United States. And so my point is simply, I know it rings hollow for local politicians to offer thoughts and prayers, but you never know who in your community is impacted by something like this. It really strikes to our own humanity. And so I just want to offer, a prayer for the Ukrainians, for their spirit and their resilience, and most importantly, their safety.
Amen. Thank you. Well said. Councilmember Harper from District 1, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Stevens. Oh, way up here.
Yeah, you have to push the button.
Sorry, I pushed the button and lowered the microphone. I would just, there's three things. One, I'd love an update from the city manager on the Harbor Soaring Society issue that Matt Garcia brought up. And I didn't get his last name, but I will be following up with Chris to find out what happened in Shalimar. I'd feel for that guy that lost his home. And the last thing is, are these tennis players out here? They're tennis. Okay. I wasn't sure if we were bidding in an auction or they were a little concerned. So anyway, thank you. That's all, Mayor Stevens. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councilmember Harper. Next up from District 5, Councilmember Arliss Reynolds.
Great, thank you. It's always exciting to see a packed room, although it can be a little bit unnerving too, depending on what's on the agenda. I want to thank Councilmember Harlan for your words. It's been a very heavy week, and I find myself sort of waking up, and the first thing I do is check the news. So I didn't know what words to say, but I thought your words were perfect. So thank you for that. A few updates. As you know, I'm our liaison to I'm on the TCA board representing Costa Mesa, and I'm on the environmental subcommittee. And I really enjoy being on that committee because there's lots of opportunities to learn from their team and their team's restoration efforts. There's parallels with Fairview Park. One of the last things we voted on was a site plan for a new piece of, a 33-acre piece of land that TCA acquired. And this one is unique. It's in Trabuco Canyon. It's unique because it's the first place where TCA has the opportunity to do restoration projects, which they're very good at, but combine that with passive use. And so their site plan includes some pilot studies where they're going to look at how do they appropriately balance restoration and passive use. So I asked them if they'd be willing to talk to our Fairview Park team and share what they're doing, see if we can do some lessons learned there. So heads up. I want to thank Wendy Lease. She organized a meeting last week for some residents in my district who are concerned about a number of safety issues. It continues to be what I share here at council, lots of concerns about speeds, vehicle speeds on our roads, particularly in residential areas, vehicles running red lights and stop signs, some concerns about trash and defecation associated with folks who are downtrodden, and then parking issues. So we talked through a lot of the great work that our staff has been doing and different solutions and resources we have. And it reminded me that we've got two really important projects, community input opportunities coming up related to our pedestrian master plan. So the City of Costa Mesa's first pedestrian master plan, I think, will be out for public input in March. I'm looking at our Director of Public Services to nod his head. In March, and then also our city's first parking study, where we've been looking at different solutions to address parking issues in our city. So I think we'll be out for maybe hearing updated recommendations on our parking study pretty soon as well. Yep. Okay. Related to safe streets, we had a really fun day doing walk to school with Wilson Elementary. The continuation of what I think we're really excited about in terms of a bigger partnership between our city and our school district, and really focusing on safe streets around schools. I want to thank our new active transportation coordinator, Brett Atencio, for attending that with us. That was a really fun morning. I think a third of the school, according to the principal, showed up and walked to school together. And I want to just pivot back for a moment to Women's History Month. I think we skipped over that pretty quickly because I think all of the wonderful women in our city team are just so busy, they didn't even think to acknowledge themselves. So I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge our amazing team of women leaders who just work their butts off and give their heart and soul to this city, and we're so lucky to have them. So we have our first ever female city manager, Lorianne Farrell Harrison, assistant city manager, Susan Price, our first female city attorney, Kim Barlow, our city clerk, Brenda Green here, several department heads that are with us, our director of planning and development services, Jennifer Lee, our finance director, Cara Molina, transportation manager, I see in the back, Jennifer Rosales, doing great work on safe streets, and our amazing fifth floor team, Alma Reyes, Francine Jimenez, and I saw Evis back there, Evis Torres. Many women in our community who generously give their time and efforts to improve every aspect of our community. So I just wanted to take a moment and thank all of the women of Costa Mesa today and the women on our city team. Thank you.
Thank you. Council member from District 4, Manuel Chavez.
Thank you, Mayor Stevens, and thank you everyone in the audience for joining us today. Really looking forward to hearing your comments and feedback, so looking forward towards that. I'll be a bit brief, given we have a lot of guests on our council floor today. I had the privilege of participating last week on the point-in-time count. It's a count that happens every 2 years in the County of Orange, where people go and canvass the county and talk to homeless residents to see, where they came from, how many there are in certain cities, what other issues and whatnot. And I had the privilege of doing that in Costa Mesa, particularly in District 6, 5, and 4. Good news to share, I only saw 4 homeless residents in my nighttime shift, which means our shelter is working and keeping folks off of the streets if they want help. The folks that I did talk to all seem to be from Los Angeles. So not sure what's going on there, but I will say it was really refreshing to see all law enforcement there from all the county joining us and really helping us in figuring out what the root cause of homelessness is. At the end of the day, it comes down to housing. It comes down to the fact there's not enough housing in Orange County for folks who are me, young, and want to live here to be here. And I think the more we do these point-in-time counts, the more we can really assess how our model is working in Costa Mesa, but more importantly, assess what we can do better. And with that, I just want to end with a brief moment as a man of faith. I am Catholic. Today is Mardi Gras, or Fat Tuesday. And I just want to say to everyone that's going to participate in Lent, wish you luck in your giving ups and your taking ons, and look forward to see how it all goes for us come Easter. Thanks.
Thank you, Council Member. Next up from District 2, Council Member Gameros.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to take a moment and recognize the police department and the Fire Department briefly. I'd like to welcome Steve Cathy as a new Firefighter Association president, if you're still here. Thank you for your service. I also want to recognize Nicholas Vela. It was a tragedy, and the city of Costa Mesa has lived through this once before, 30 years ago, as we lost our helicopter pilots. It was a tragedy that just could have been avoided, and unfortunately, this comes with the territory. I also want to thank the police department. We had a high-speed chase that they managed to bring to an end rather abruptly. Nobody got hurt. If anyone watched, the guy actually was running with a gun in his hand, it looked like, and managed to bring that safely to an end. So you have my undying gratitude for keeping our community safe. The last thing I'd like to speak about is we have opening day for pony baseball. It's either going to be this weekend, weather permitting. If it does rain, we're going to probably move it to the 12th. If you have an opportunity to just to come by and grab a quick hot dog and say hi and watch what's going on, we're going to have some really fun events. The kids love it. It's really good family fun-filled time. If you want to stop by, it's going to be at T. Winkle Park there, right across from the fairgrounds. So other than that, that's all.
Thanks, I appreciate it. So thank you very much for all the comments, the public comments, and everybody on council. For tonight, we're going to adjourn the meeting for Officer Vela. We had a moment of silence for him, and thank you for those great words about Officer Vela, Councilmember Gameros. Also, we're going to adjourn the meeting for Gladys Rafakis. Gladys is the mother of Beth Rafakis, who is frequently here talking to us and participating in the public discourse. But Gladys was a 70-year resident of the city of Costa Mesa, so she resided in Costa Mesa before there was a Costa Mesa. And so she has seen a lot, seen a lot during her long life, and we appreciate her. She was an early member of the Senior Citizens Club, the Women's Club, and the Historical Society. So we appreciate her, and may she rest in peace. In addition to Pony, Little League also starts on Saturday, and so I don't know how, if they're at the same time, how we're going to do it. I'm hoping to be able to throw out the first pitch on both of them, and I'm not going to tell you whether it's going to be a fastball or a curveball. Thank you to the police department. Remarkable work on stopping that chase and ending that chase safely. Somebody came from out of our city into Costa Mesa, and the Costa Mesa Police Department was Johnny on the spot to really work with our other neighboring agencies to bring that to a safe conclusion. As Councilmember Chavez said, tomorrow is Ash Wednesday, so you still have some time for Fat Tuesday. It's early in the evening. The evening's young. Tomorrow, it all starts happening with Lent. We get our ashes, and then it's 40 days of sacrifice. So I'll see y'all at Easter. And then finally, we have something. Now, there are many athletes here, and we have an extraordinary athlete on the dais. Jeff Harlan Councilmember Harlan from District 6 is not only an accomplished tennis player, but he has gotten 2 holes in one in the last 3 months. And we have video evidence of the most recent one on hole 2 of Mesa Linda right here in the great city of Costa Mesa. Can you play this video evidence?
Oh my God. Here's the verification moment. Let's make sure that it is in the hole.
There's Councilmember Harlan. The hardest part for him is bending over and getting the ball.
Wait for it. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Hole in one. It's official.
Yes.
Congratulations, Jeff. Wow.
Councilmember Harlan, a man of many talents, and may I point out that he was wearing a Dick Church's hat and promoting a local ball, so I'm sure he's got a lot of sponsorship opportunities in his future. So anyway, that's all we have. Mayor Pro Tem Mar sent me a text and said that because of her hookup, she was not going to say anything today. That's why I jumped over her. I didn't forget her. I would never forget her. And I also don't forget the city manager, Miss Lori Ann Farrell Harrison. Do you have a city manager's report?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council, and esteemed community members. I just had a couple of updates for you this evening. First, congratulations, Councilmember Harlan, for your hole-in-one. Really exciting for you and also for us that you're such a great athlete and making good use of our city facilities. Wanted to give everyone a homelessness update. This is one of the issues, as you know, that's one of the most challenging for us from a policy standpoint. Just wanted to share with the community some of the great work that the team is doing. We know that much still needs to be done, but we did want to give an update on some really important and great news. First, we wanted to report that since our efforts began with the Network for Homeless Solutions, we've helped find housing for a total of 204 individuals who would otherwise still be experiencing homelessness and be living on our streets, 204 since April of 2019. And so we're really excited about that, the ability to be able to change lives and get people reunited with family and housed. And so we're really happy for those results. I also wanted to give a shout out to Assistant City Manager Susan Price, who over the Christmas break worked with John Began, who's been operating our homeless shelter, to apply for grant money to address the needs of 60 people who are camping illegally in Talbot Park. As you know, our parks can become a location for individuals to seek refuge and sometimes camp. And so last week, we learned that Governor Newsom approved $3.6 million for assistance with this. We're really thankful for the state participating. It's unusual for a city to receive a grant of this size. And so we're really excited to have $3.6 million to work with the county. It will be a county-led effort, but we'll be playing a very active role in addressing those challenging issues there. We also wanted to mention that the point in time count happened for the number of sheltered and unsheltered individuals experiencing homelessness in our city. That count was conducted on Monday, February 22nd. The unsheltered count was Tuesday morning and evening on February 23rd. And a big thanks, of course, to Councilmember Chavez, who woke up to early in the morning to participate in the point in time count, along with our outreach leader, John Began, who coordinated the city's teams and works closely with Mercy House at our shelter. Currently at the Bridge Shelter, we have 58 individuals. That's the highest census that we've had since the pandemic began. We did have to place some of the clients at local motels just to keep folks quarantined or isolated if they had become infected or exposed. So this is our biggest number yet since the pandemic began. And so we're glad to be getting our census back up, and hopefully we'll get to 72, which is our licensed census in the weeks to come. And so a lot of effort here with our community outreach teams and a lot of work around securing housing for the homeless and addressing all of those challenging issues. So I wanted to introduce an important member of the team. We have a new neighborhood improvement manager who will be working with these teams on a lot of our quality of life issues, making sure that Costa Mesa remains a beautiful place to live. And so Nate is here in the audience. We're really excited to have him. He's up in the city manager's office working closely with John Began and the Network for Homeless Solutions and the police department and code enforcement for a full-scale, multi-departmental effort to continue our efforts around getting people housed, getting them assistance, and making sure that our public facilities are accessible to the residents. So thank you, Nate, for choosing Costa Mesa. Then we have one more exciting hire, Mikhail Daly, who's managing the administration of our community development and block grant funding. So congratulations to Mikhail for choosing us, and we're excited to have her. They'll be working closely together to make sure that we have the funding and the resources, federal, state, county, from everywhere that we can to find housing for those in need. So very happy to have Mikhail join the team as well. And then one final comment here. We just want to thank an engineer. Last week, the National Society of Professional Engineers observed Engineers Week between February 20th to the 26th. Several dedicated engineers serve and work for the city of Costa Mesa. These include some of our very own city council members who are engineers, committee members, and staff in the Public Services and Development Services departments. These engineers design, build, maintain, and inspect the city's public and private infrastructure on a daily basis and provide a valuable contribution to the city. We're so lucky to have a great and talented team of engineers. A lot of students graduating from UCI choose Costa Mesa to work at. So we're really excited about them and the opportunities that they bring, and many of the beautiful facilities that we see, whether it be the homeless shelter or the Norma Herzog Community Center or our beautiful library and our beautifully paved streets, which are second only to Irvine in the entire county, all due to our engineers. So congratulations to them for Public Works Week, and Women in Construction Week is next week. Congratulations to all of you. And then lastly, I just wanted to also express my condolences on the passing of Officer Nick Vela. As some of you know, I worked for the city of Huntington Beach for 9 years as assistant city manager there and CFO, and had extensive dealings with the police department and had the pleasure of meeting Officer Vela. And so I've reached out to the Huntington Beach PD, to the Police Officers Association, to the city manager, and also to the chief of police at Newport, and obviously our wonderful chief of police, to let everyone know that City of Costa Mesa is here to provide any help, assistance that we possibly can to the family and to the department as they grieve the loss of such an incredible and dedicated young man. And so thank you, Mayor, and turn it back to you.
Thank you very much. City Attorney, Ms. Barlow, do you have a report for us?
Just very briefly, Mr. Mayor, first I want to say to all of you and to my family and friends, my second home in Nolens, Louisiana, laissez-les bon temps rouler. I think the events that are happening around the world right now are teaching us all that we have much to sacrifice, not just in the next 40 days, but to make this a better world all around. And I thank you, Councilmember Harlan, for your comments about the family. I was reading about them, and it was just so moving and so frightening that it took them so long to get out of Ukraine. Very, very sad. I want to extend my condolences to my friend Ann Thomas on the tragic loss of her husband. And then I just want to let the council know that because we will be doing the closed session at the end, normally I would report out after the end of the closed session. I do not expect there to be any reportable action tonight, so I wanted the public to know that. We won't be hanging on. Should there be a need for any kind of report, we'll do it at the beginning of the next council meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So next, we're going to go to the consent calendar. And the consent calendar is considered to be routine items. Before I do that, I just want everybody to know that Mayor Pro Tem Mar is participating. She's participating and listening to every word we say. But she's participating remotely, and her connection's not that great. So we'll bring her in to vote, and just everybody know that she's listening to everything that's being said and actively participating in the meeting, including our consent calendar item. So as I said, they're routine, no separate discussion unless members of the city council or the public or the staff pull an item for separate discussion. So my question, Madam Clerk, is, has anyone from council, the public, or the staff pulled any of these consent calendar items?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Wonderful. Then I will entertain a motion on the consent calendar.
Move to approve.
Councilmember Chavez moves to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Gameros. Let's call for the question.
Councilmember Reynolds? Councilmember Harper? Yes. Councilmember Harlan? Yes. Councilmember Gameros?
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mar?
Yes.
Mayor Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Wonderful. Okay, we have two new business items. The first one is the one I think most of you are here to see, pertains to our tennis center. Thank you all very much for being here for this item and participating with us. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title?
Thank you. This is the interim lease agreement for the temporary operation of the Costa Mesa Tennis Center. Presentation by Mr. Minter, Parks and Community Services Director.
Director Minter, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor and Council, members of the community. Let's get this started.
Oh, wait, just 1 second. Let me get this cleared. I'm sorry. How do I set this? Let me go back up here.
We good?
There we go. Thank you.
Can you see the PowerPoint?
No, I can't. But no, now you got it. Okay.
As mentioned, this new business item is the interim lease agreement for the temporary operation of the Costa Mesa Tennis Center. The recommendation from staff is that City Council approve the assignment and assumption of the lease agreement for the temporary operation to Top Seed Tennis Academy effective March 1st, 2022 for a period of 4 months. The assignment and assumption of lease terms include, as I mentioned, 4 months with the potential for 2 one-month options. The revenue sharing terms of the agreement are consistent with what has been taking place with the Hank Lloyd agreement, and that it's 10% of gross revenue from court use, 5% of gross revenue from the pro shop concessions, which is a combined number, or $1,000, which is greater. The Top Seed Tennis Academy is currently operating the City of Calabasas Tennis Center, along with a couple of other facility locations. Staff have vetted Top Seed's performance record and found them to be outstanding in their current agreement with the City of Calabasas. They have decades of experience operating both private and public tennis facilities, and we expect that they have the experience and expertise to continue that level of service that is expected by the Costa Mesa community for this period of 4 months. Staff are completing the request for proposals process. We are looking for opportunities to gather more community input. There will be a couple of community meetings scheduled. There will also be an opportunity to complete a survey monkey for members of the community. Staff intend to complete the scope of the RFP in the month of March. There will be an in-person pre-proposal meeting date that will be published with the RFP. The RFP submittal deadline is anticipated for April, with the rating panel interviews for the top scoring vendors to be held in April or May. There will be a couple of tennis center community meetings that we have scheduled so far. One of them will be on Saturday, March 12th at 10 a.m. at the tennis center. And the follow-up meeting will be Wednesday, March 16th at 5:30 p.m. All members of the community are invited. We will be going over updates on the tennis center, including what happens at the meeting tonight. We will also be looking for community input on the tennis center and the rest of T. Winkle Park during those meetings. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm available.
So, Council, do you have any questions for Director Minter or any other staff members?
I do.
Go ahead, Councilmember Harlan.
Just one quick question, Mr. Minter. The presentation said the options were for 2 one-month periods, but I'm looking at page 2 of our attachment 4, and it looks like it's for 2-month periods. So I just want to clarify what is the option period?
I thought it was written 2 one-month options, but I can clarify.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the proposed amendment assignment and assumption agreement does provide for two-month period extensions, but we can certainly change that as directed or requested by the council.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of staff?
Just one.
Sure. Councilmember Harper.
Mr. Mentor, they made the screen high so they couldn't see me. I don't know what's going on, or I'm short. What was the process we went through? I know Hank Lloyd gave notice of retirement like 4 or 5 months ago. Was there just a hiccup in getting to the RFP process? Is that why we kind of have a stopgap here?
The original plan when finding out of the pending retirement was for staff to take over the transition. We had put a lot of systems in place. We were working with both Hank and Maureen on a transition plan. There were some concerns towards the end that we may not be able to cover all of the hours and the times that they were used to in terms of operation. That was the primary trigger for why at the last minute it was decided to go and make a recommendation for an interim operator.
And how do we select this interim operator?
There had been many different operators that contacted the city, making use of resources within staff and recommendations from various members of the community. We found that the Top Seed Tennis Academy would provide enough both financial backing and experience to be able to come forward and do this on a very short-term basis, giving barely a week's notice from when we started talking to them.
We just selected it from whoever raised their hand and who seemed the best at the time.
Correct. And being clear that this was a 4-month only, it was only for an interim with a full RFP to be released shortly after.
Does the city dictate the fees we charge to people that use the center?
The lease agreements from 1998 states that the vendor creates the fees and the city should be approving them.
Is it our intention going forward to reassess what the lease says and how the facility operates?
There is another stipulation that we are looking to be comparative to the market that surrounds us. So the intention is the vendor can set fees, present them to the city to approve, but the goal is to be around the median of the market. To be
market relative to other public city facilities, not necessarily private clubs.
Correct.
Okay. Would it be possible in your process you're going forward to come back to council with what your RFP process is and what the objectives for the center are? Because I play tennis. I played tennis in high school and some in college. I love the game. I really want to support it. And I want it to be there for our youth and for our community. And I want it to be affordable and I want it to be high quality. So I don't think I noticed in the staff report, the city ends up with net revenue. I'm really not, I'll state it right here, I'm not interested in that. But is it possible to come back with more of a objective that council can look at and say, this is the intent behind what we're offering, so that kind of leads you to the next, to the RFP process?
If that's the direction from the council, we can do so. I know the greatest challenge, is that I see is trying to duplicate the community feeling that had been created by Hank and Maureen over the years. I've only been with the city for a relatively short period of time, but in getting to know them, especially over the last 3 to 4 months, it's finding someone to fill their shoes is going to be different. And the reason for the community outreach is to try to gather as much input as possible so that we can find the next best vendor to carry on their legacy.
So I think what I'll make it more detailed just to make sure you understand what I'm asking for or hoping for is that in this process you come back with not a 15 or 20-year agreement, but it's very short term, or at least it has outs for the city so we can assess it, give the feedback. And I know earlier today I was asking for just data on who uses the facility, how much, with the and we just don't know at this point, or we're learning. And I think that's in your staff report, correct?
Moving forward, we would be asking for additional levels of maybe tracking programs or getting attendance reports, things like that can help us monitor usage, in the coming years.
Yeah, 16 courts is a heck of an asset, and I know pickleball players would like to convert them all, but I know you folks will stop them with that. So it's 12 tennis courts. I'm teasing about pickleball, both. So I think that's it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Any other council members have questions?
I have a couple, Mayor.
Okay, Councilmember Reynolds.
Yeah, thank you. Councilmember Harper, I think, was reading my mind today because I had some of the same questions. So just interested in understanding a little bit more about the RFP development process for the long-term RFP. So you answered those questions already, Director Minter, but I just want to sort of state my interest as well in really understanding who's been using the center, and I really appreciate the plan for community meetings and outreach for folks who have been using the center. I'm always very interested in understanding who's not using the center, who would like to be, right? And are there access issues and sort of equity issues on that front? So I just don't know, but I'd love for us to look at that and look at ways to continue to make our city facilities more accessible for our community members. I had a question related to that community output. You answered those in your presentation with the 2 community meetings and a note about a survey monkey. So I just want to ask the public who's here to give input now, if you could also give us some feedback on Do those community input options sort of look good in terms of the schedule, or what other ways we might reach out to the community? I'd love to get some input on that. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council members have questions? So just so I can clarify this, to pick up on what Councilmember Harper was saying. So the order is we get this feedback, including it tonight and at our town halls and SurveyMonkey, or however we solicit the feedback. We bring it back, and then we're going to develop a RFP. That RFP is going to come to the council for us to look at before it's issued, or is it going to be issued without us looking at it?
I'll take it. Thank you, Mayor. I think based on the feedback that we received this evening, I think it would be good for us to get the data, assemble the information, and then bring an item back to council where we're giving you the framework for the scope of the RFP based on that information. Then at that time, you can provide feedback. If you feel like there are other things that we need to add into it, other considerations, we will be looking for best practices. We will be surveying other cities and also looking at some of our own agreements that we have where we are leasing other facilities, city facilities as well, just for comparison purposes. So we hope for this to be both a swift yet comprehensive, as much as possible review, and then bring it back to you if you so direct for you to weigh in, and then at that point we could issue the RFP.
All right. So yeah, so I think that that's good. If you're looking for direction from council, for my part, I think that that would be a good way to go. And it sounds like Councilmember Harper concurs, and so that's two of us. If we agree, that's saying something. So let's see. We don't have any questions. I don't think any more questions. So let's open it up to the public. So what happens is you can line up, and I'll go from one side to the other. We'll first get the people to wish to speak in the chambers, and then we go to Zoom. You have 3 minutes, and only 3 minutes. That's the maximum. At 2 minutes, you'll hear a beep. Then start to complete your comments, and I think that that's about it for the rules. Other than that, we can get going. But kind of line up if you want to talk, so it'll move a little bit more expeditiously. You have the floor, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor, can you please turn the speakers on?
Oh, the speakers are off? Okay, podium mic is on.
Okay,
Go.
there it goes.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right, good evening, guys. City Council, thank you for all the information about the impending RFP. My concern is more with the interim process. My name is Amy Pazahanik. I'm the owner of Agape Tennis Academy. I currently manage the Fountain Valley Tennis Center, which is the neighboring community here, as you're well aware, as well as the Oxnard Tennis Center, which is in Ventura County, and the largest tennis center in the city of Atlanta. My concern is I was in contact with the city knowing about the bid impending to come out, and I wasn't aware of any opportunity in the interim to manage the tennis center. And, of course, just being a small business female minority owner, wondering, why we weren't made aware of this opportunity as well. And yeah, so I'm just going to kind of read what I had written here. So this evening we're voting to allow another private organization that's the same as our organization to manage the Costa Mesa Tennis Center in the interim until the city completes its bid process. Our organization and others were not given the same opportunity to manage the center in the interim. I'm here to voice my concern on allowing the process to manage the Costa Mesa Tennis Center to be a fair and transparent process, one that provides equal opportunity for all organizations. Voting for another private organization to manage the tennis center in the interim clearly gives this organization an unfair advantage in the bid process that was not given to all organizations. I'm simply asking that the bid process to manage the Costa Mesa Tennis Center be a fair, transparent, and provide equal opportunity for all organizations interested in this process. And, based on the presentation that was given here, I believe our organization has not only the same but more experience managing larger, bigger tennis centers. We have an operation with 80 professionals, staff professionals on the East Coast and the West Coast, and we're also the neighboring community with just as much resources, tools, and experience and capability to manage it now as well, but weren't made aware. Thank you.
Thank you. You have the floor. And then if we can use both podiums. So if you could line up over here and we'll do it, then we'll be able to go right from one to the other. You have the floor,
Mayor and council members, hello tonight. My name is Steve McAvoy. I'm president of Top Seed Tennis Academy. And as Jason mentioned, this came together very quickly with me, with our company. John and Liz Tunney, they contacted me approximately 2 weeks ago. I've known Hank, Lloyd, and Maureen for 35 years, and the Ball family, Sid, Karsten, and Cameron Ball for 30 years. And they asked me a couple Sundays to come down and talk to them and see what I could do in the interim. And I said I like the group that's here, and I'm willing to, put in some money. During this interim period, there's not going to be a financial windfall, and there's most likely a break-even at best situation for Top Seed. And I understand where you're coming from, a private tennis operator. We do run Calabasas Tennis and Swim Center, which has 16 courts, 2 pickle, 2 swimming pools, fitness, cafe, etc. I own a club called Valencia Paseo Club. It has 12 pickle courts, 12 tennis courts, restaurants, bars, pools, teen center, kids corner, etc. And one thing I want to make clear is the Ball family, I spoke with them, they're on board with us, they're already at the club. I talked to Pat in length actually today, had a nice talk with him, Eduardo last weekend, and I'm just here to help out and do the best we can in the next 4 months, and we will be participating in the RFP process as well. And I understand it's the best operator that you'll choose, and so that's why I'm here. I'm excited about the opportunity, and I've been involved with the City of Calabasas since 1994, and I'm in the process of renewing my lease at this time there for another 20 years. So anyway, welcome. I'd like to meet you guys in person someday, and hopefully maybe get on the courts with you. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. My name is Cameron Ball. I've been with the Costa Mesa Tennis Center, Hank and Maureen Lloyd since 2005. My father since the late 90s. My brother as well has been affiliated for years. I would like to state that Hank and Maureen leaving is going to be and has been a very difficult thing for all of us at the tennis center. He created an absolute amazing place and family and sense of community, one that would be easily said to be hard, if not impossible, to match. I sit here and come here with the idea of keeping it in exactly the way that me, my father, my brother, Eduardo, Patrick, and all of us that have made this a community and a family with only the best interest in the full support, by the way, of Steve, who we think we can maintain that exact image with for everybody. And I think and believe that with the dedication, the time, and everything that we've put there, it's going to be a recipe for it to continue as is, and if not, get better. We've donated tireless hours. All of the names I just said are family, and we intend to keep it going that way for this next period, of course, with the intention of, like I said, maintaining it. So I just wanted to follow with that and say thank you for your time. So thank you.
Thank you.
Classic older brother, taking all the glory. Good evening, everyone. I haven't been able to spend as much time there as, say, my older brother or my father or Hank and Maureen, but we went to their shop out in Tustin even before he was down at Costa Mesa. So that's how long our family ties go back. And when we heard he was leaving, we thought, it should be us that should have a say in who's going to be coming in. Not as a business, but as a family. And everybody behind us all in support. They're the ones who really got this going in power. We were just sitting there hoping for the best, and they went out there and actually made it happen for us. So we owe them everything. But I just want to say that I hope whoever gets the bid and gets in there understands they're coming into a family. Not just money, not this, not that. What's best for everybody, you know, where that means in the interim, some of us not taking hours, going into the shop, working, sacrificing in order to make it happen. And I think that's what all of us are prepared to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Janine Nguyen, and my heart's beating so fast. I just want you to know that I have been at that tennis center for 17 years. I had 4 children close together, and it was my sanity, actually, and all my kids have played there, and I play 9 to 10 hours a week there. And I can guarantee I'm speaking for most of these people here. We love Hank and Maureen, and we love the atmosphere there. And we have known the Ball family. I've known Eddie. I've just recently met Patrick. Just today, I loved his name because my oldest son is Patrick. But I just want you to know that we're just trying to keep what Hank and Maureen created, and that's why. In that quickness, we found someone that we felt could really do that, and I just wanted to say that. And I really appreciate all of you very much for taking your time to see what's best for the community. And we just hope this all makes sense to you all. I think I speak for a lot of these people here, and it is a family that Maureen and Hank created, and we just want it to continue. Thanks.
Sir, you have the floor.
Sorry. Hello, everyone. My name is Eduardo Reyes. I'm also one of the teaching pros at Costa Mesa Tennis Center. I wasn't prepared to speak today, but I felt like I needed to say something, especially with a lot of misinformation that we've been having the last couple of days. I do all the city classes there, along with Patrick, and I'm in charge of the junior program, which we have a bunch of matches this weekend. I hope we have the courts. Yes. I've been working with the city very diligent the last few weeks about how to transition this process. I know a lot of people didn't know that, and it's I got caught by surprise that Steve was taking over. I honestly had offered myself and Hank do this, but if I think Steve is the best option for us to continue growing, I'm all behind it if the community is behind it. That's all I have to say.
Ma'am, you have the floor.
Hi, my name is Barbara Henshaw. I'm a 16-year citizen of Costa Mesa, and thank you for your service for Costa Mesa. I'm here to ask you to please not sign the lease between the City of Costa Mesa and Topsy Tennis Academy based in Calabasas, Los Angeles County. The lease opportunity, short-term and long-term, for the tennis center should stay with our local community right here in Costa Mesa, like it has been since the beginning. I know that local citizens have come forward to help the city, to offer the help to the city to run the tennis center for the short term while the city goes through the RFPs. And I wonder why none of them, and I wonder why they were not considered, our local people. It also concerns me in the short turnaround of a week, 2 weeks, that it was decided that a tennis club in Los Angeles County was the best fit to take over the short-term lease, especially when right here in our community, we have people. I understand the city does not have the manpower to work the hours needed for the tennis center. However, the tennis community would fully understand the time restrictions, knowing that the city is working to find the best local person to run the city. Your city employees have been trained by Hank and Maureen and can seamlessly take over starting tomorrow. And again, if that meant that the center isn't open the hours that it has been in the interim, I'm sure the community would be fine, because we would prefer a local establishment to do the short-term lease. and eventually long-term. If you sign this lease agreement with a Los Angeles County establishment, the city of Costa Mesa is taking away any and all opportunities from our local community. I ask you to please not approve and sign the lease with the Topsy Tennis Academy. Please take a step back and pause and find another option. I know this can happen with our local community right here in Costa Mesa. Give us, the residents of Costa Mesa, a chance to do right by the center and to continue to uphold the standards of the tennis center we love. I respectfully request you to defer the decision tonight and to reopen the short-term bid to our local community. Thank you.
Hello, my name is...
Hold on 1 second.
Sorry.
We'll switch when I want to start your time. You may go. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Hello, my name is Brina, and my coach is Eduardo at the tennis center. I take lessons from him, and he coaches our junior team. Coach Eddie has taught me how to play tennis and to love the game. One thing I know about Coach Eddie is that I can always find him at the tennis courts at the center, and I think he loves it there more than his house. He is always smiling and says hi to everyone at the tennis courts. I want to recommend Coach Eddie to run the tennis center. He knows everything about the center and makes everyone feel welcome. He invites underprivileged kids from our community to come and play with him, and he does not charge them any money, and he has such a good heart and cares. Please give Coach Eddie a chance. Thank you.
Thank you. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. With the support of the family that's here, nothing has changed so far, and we love that. I got our courts, I run the Thursday night group. We have anywhere between 4 to 6 courts, or foursomes, and so nothing's changed, and that's what we like. With the Hart brothers, Steve, it right now looks like they're going to be running this place. We're happy with that. That's keeping our family together. That's what we need to do.
Thank you. Oh, hold on 1 second. We're going to start your time. Go ahead, right ahead.
I'm Liz Tenney. I'm the person that asked Steve to come and take a look at the Costa Mesa Tennis Center, and I'd just like to explain how that came about. I knew Steve from Valencia. I was a member of that club and knew what an excellent job he did and his reputation with Calabasas. As a group of many patrons, we were panicked at how we would keep our current pros, the Balls, Patrick, Eddie, and others, who do such a fabulous job and maintain the unique environment that Hank and Maureen created. Hank is from Yorba Linda, not an insider, but he was able to create that because of what he can do. I reached out to Steve to look at the RFP, and as we discussed it with him a few days ago and saw that the hours were going to be limited under understandable circumstances with what the city could do, we simply said, would you consider doing an interim plan so that we could keep the full hours, employ all of the pros, the full hours that they need to manage how they've been living in these difficult times and keep all of us happy? I know you're capable of that. That is how Steve came into this situation. He is working with all of the current people and is wonderful at doing that. They are here to say that they are thrilled to have him come in and be able to simply continue the wonderful environment that Hank and Maureen have created. We are here to say we support that, and we hope that you will please endorse that so that we can continue and not lose the wonderful programs and resources that we have already. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, there was a time in the great city of Costa Mesa where clapping was not allowed in the center, but in the chambers. But there's a new sheriff in town. So anybody on Zoom, Madam Clerk?
Yes. Cynthia McDonald, please.
Ms. McDonald, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. First of all, the Lloyds didn't live in Costa Mesa. They live pretty close to the Orange County border, so I don't understand the concern there. But having been a client of the Costa Mesa Tennis Center for many years now, more than I want to admit, but during that time, I've taken note of how the tennis center was run. I've played at other tennis centers. I've visited many private clubs and other tennis centers in the course of watching my child play while in high school. And while I would like to see improvements made to the infrastructure, that never stopped me from playing at the Costa Mesa Tennis Center. First, what happens on the court is the product of a lot of experience and knowledge of the operator. The Lloyds knew they had to hire first-class coaches. For the most part, the coaches were awesome, but there were a few stinkers over the years, but they weren't around for long. Hank took care of that. The courts were maintained so they were clean and safe for all ages and skill levels. Now, completely separate from that was the pro shop. Besides the friendly service, the court and class scheduling was prompt and easy and fairly priced. The availability of rackets, balls, shoes, and clothes was fabulous. Getting a racket strung was convenient, and my husband loved the availability of an ice cream bar after playing. Top Seed Tennis Academy, the proposed interim operator, appears to have the experience and expertise to operate the center. Full disclosure, I did talk to Hank and Maureen, and they felt it was a good fit for Costa Mesa. If the Lloyds and the Ball family trust this operator, so do I. And if the interim operation doesn't work, it's going to be apparent pretty quickly. And it is the interim operator, not the final operator. The RFP process will help you find the best operator for years to come. If this operator has the ability to step in and take over immediately, then that's great. We need to maintain the same care and services. That said, the extensions in the assignment agreement may not be long enough if the process means bringing the draft RFP to the council. So you may want to consider an extra extension period. Thanks, that's it.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Do we have anybody else on Zoom?
Deborah Nguyen, please.
Ms. Nguyen, you have the floor.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Nguyen. I'm a resident and a tennis player at the center. Last week, we were told that the city of Costa Mesa would be taking over the management responsibilities once Hank and Maureen retired. Today, we learned that Steve McAvoy from the Calabasas area will be taken over as interim. We have plenty of people in Costa Mesa who are qualified and want this position. For example, tennis pro Eduardo Reyes had said that he would volunteer as interim operator, keep the tennis center open for the community. He's been working at the club since 2007. He knows the members and is familiar with the daily management of the center. Today, city councils are voting on this matter. There was no transparency on why Steve McAvoy is the pick for the interim operator. Steve seems successful at his Top Seed Academy, Tennis Academy. But what about the Costa Mesa community? Did you consider the Costa Mesa employees? Did you consider the tennis professionals who know the center, the members, the community? I'm questioning the process of choosing this interim. Was it fair? Was it legal? Why was it so fast? And is Hank and Maureen really happy? And everybody's dropping their name. If they were supporting this idea, they would be here today, right now. So please reconsider this interim process and let everybody have a fair chance at having an opportunity to operate the center. I just want it to be what's good for the community and for tennis. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and voice my opinion.
Thank you.
Hi, Mariano Alvarez, please.
Mr. Alvarez.
Hi, actually, I'm Lauren Weinstein. I'm Mariano's wife, or I'm just using his Zoom. So my name is Lauren Weinstein, and I just wanted to say that, I moved here with my husband in December of 2019. We were really drawn to Costa Mesa because of its sense of community. And then when COVID hit, we were really isolated in our new city, but the tennis center and the people there, people like Hank and Maureen and people like Eduardo Reyes made us feel welcome. And so now with all of this, transition, all that I'm asking is that, there's continuity as Hank retires to keep us together as a community, that there's transparency in how this decision is made, and that hopefully there's some consideration in what the residents actually want and need. So from my perspective, we're not asking for any drastic change. Ideally, it just makes sense to have Eduardo take over the operation of this tennis center and just keep, everything going just as it's been. There was no problem here. So I don't understand why we have someone who's outside of our community coming in and changing everything. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, we have no further speakers.
Okay, let's close public comment then. Thank you, everybody. Oh, we have one more? Sure, go right ahead.
Oh, sorry, I guess I feel like we keep repeating ourselves, but then the comments keep coming back. But the most important part is I feel like Liz stood up and she was being transparent on how the conversation came about and how they contacted Steve. What we want is a seamless transition. And I'm sure over time, we'll have lots of time to look at other candidates and let's look at all the details. But for us, this is actually our day-to-day life. This isn't just like some theory, like a lot of us are there every day and their livelihood as well. This isn't just like some extra thing on the side. And so what we wanted was a seamless transition. That all takes time. These are all fine things, but it takes time. And we don't have that time. They don't have the time. People they're taking lessons, they're counting on that income. And they're, like Eduardo said, they have matches this weekend. These are our day-to-day lives, and it's not just some theory. So we just wanted to express that. Sure, there can be other changes made, but in the meantime, let's get someone in there that the community, we are the community, did choose. And during that interim time, can you then look at other options during that time? So that's my opinion. Oh, and just to say that going to the tennis center it truly is a wonderful, wonderful feeling. Just as a stay-at-home mom, my kids were really little and having postpartum depression, having somewhere to go. I can't afford to go to a really nice tennis club, and it's been an amazing opportunity for me and my family, my children to go take from the balls, and they're such good examples for my kids to go to, and I'm so grateful that they're there and that we have a place to go. It's a safe place for our community, and I'm grateful that people have taken the time to bring someone in who can make it a seamless transition so that tomorrow we can just start up where we left off. We have a clinic tomorrow morning and our kids have it tomorrow afternoon. It is about the day to day, and that's why we're here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Patrick Key. I felt entitled to come up here, hearing my name thrown around a little bit. I just want to make a point that Steve, as well as the Ball family, all come from very professional backgrounds. Steve has tournaments that are at the professional level at his club. If I look across at all my fellow brothers and teachers, they've all played professional tennis. They know the grit and what it takes to be a professional tennis player. Not to say that that's distance from the lower members of the community where I come in, where Ed comes in. We happily teach all levels, and I think the amount of professionalism you're going to see going forward is going to be absolutely stellar. Thank you guys for your time.
My name's been thrown around.
Oh, wait. Yeah.
And I was brief. I just want 30 seconds.
No.
That's okay.
No. One bite at the apple. Okay. I can't do it. So, but you said your thing. So anyway, let's close public comment unless somebody else has anything to say. Anybody and nobody else on Zoom? Nobody else on Zoom? Closing public comment, and I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Councilmember Harlan.
I move staff's recommendation.
Second.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
Too late.
We'll let. It's okay. We'll. You know what? I'll defer to. The second is Mayor Pro Tem Mar. So do you wish to speak to your motion?
I would. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, first of all, thank you for everybody coming out. As I've been sitting up here, I've been thinking if I wasn't sitting here, I'd be sitting with you, because that's how important the tennis center is. it's one of my first places I went to when I moved here 16 years ago. Hank and Maureen their legacy is true and well-deserved. And I totally understand that kind of quality that you can't quite put your finger on. It is family, it is community. And I see a lot of familiar faces here, both instructors as well as players. And it is incredibly important for me that we maintain that quality moving forward. You've heard from several folks that we do want to see some improvements in the tennis center and look a little more broadly about its place in the park. That'll be coming out in the RFP process. But I think what we have before us tonight, and I'll admit I had a fair amount of apprehension about all of this. Transition and change is not easy for anyone. But what I've heard so far, and I've talked to several people about this, is that this will maintain that continuity, at least for the short term. And all I'm really looking for is status quo for the next 4 to 8 months while we do our RFP process.
All right, so the second of the motion was Mayor Pro Tem Mar, and the tennis center is in her district. So do you wish to speak to the motion?
I do, Mayor Stevens. Thanks. I'm sorry I'm kind of the voice of God getting beamed in here, but I wish I was there very much. In many ways, this process has not worked very well, right? I'll be the first to admit that I think we could have done this much better. But on the other hand, the idea that we are city council members who are supposed to be responsive to the community, to hear people's concerns, to be accessible, to try to fix things when they're not going well, that part did work, right? I think Councilmember Harlan, myself, the mayor received a number of calls, and hopefully we're able to be responsive to those and come up with a plan that was able to maintain continuity and really move this process forward for the next 4 months. I am looking forward to the RFP process because I have heard input about some of the things we would like to see. And as Mayor Stevens mentioned, this area is in my district, and so I'm very concerned with T-Winkle overall and what we can do to make that park even more accessible and user-friendly and welcoming to all Costa Mesans. So thanks everyone very much for your input. All the folks who reached out to me, who had conversations with me, I think this really is the best outcome for all. Thanks.
Thanks. Oh, okay. Do any council members other than the moving council member and the second wish to speak to the motion? Council member Harper.
Yeah, thank you. You're all tennis players. You all like things to be fair. And I play tennis, and everybody against me makes bad line calls. I know that for sure. And it's wonderful you came out to support Top Seed and the Ball brothers, and I don't know them. And I'm sure they're fine people, but just by the support that I'm seeing. But the thing that's always important that I'm hearing is transparency, which we didn't do a great job. The city didn't do a great job at it, and fairness in going through a bid process, which that's what's bothersome to me, frankly. I do have a question, Mr. Minter. What's the time frame you need to wrap this up, RFP process, and maybe do this properly?
The 4 months of the interim agreement is what we feel would be necessary to release it. If we are able to bring back a draft of the RFP at the first meeting in April, hopefully with a date where we can release it shortly thereafter. So the council review process and input process would be, the last step before it hitting the streets. The moment it's released, it would be with the idea of having the mandatory meeting already scheduled for the month of April.
And am I hearing correctly, there's complaints about how the center's running now? It hasn't got the number of hours, or there are other problems with no one there now?
That was a potential concern if staff were to take it over in the interim. There was a potential reduction in hours only if staff were the ones managing it.
But when did Hank and Maureen leave?
Their last day was yesterday.
Yesterday, okay. So we're at a gap. So I get it. But I want you all to appreciate, and you clap like your tennis fans. You all kind of have the same clap. It's beautiful. But I hope you appreciate what we're saying or what I'm saying, that it's about transparency and fairness. Top Seed may be far and away the best thing ever, and I hope it is. But I also want the opportunity for others to bid on the process, and we get the best thing for our community in the fairest process. So my email and my phone is open to anybody who wants to talk about this, and make sure we do it right and have fun. Take care.
Okay. Sounds like you support the motion. That's good. And do any of the other council members wish to speak? Yeah. Councilmember Reynolds.
Yeah, thank you. Just wanted to add a few comments and take the opportunity to say hi to Coach Eduardo. I think I was undercover during my classes a while back. And you were a great coach, and I enjoyed hearing the positive comments about you, so thank you. It was your comment tonight that makes me feel more comfortable supporting this motion. Hopefully that's okay with you. I struggled with a lot of the same concerns that Councilmember Harper raised. You know, and I've had to sort of separate this into sort of how we got to where we are and what's the best way to go from here. I think, perfect world, we'd be having this discussion before the Lloyds were leaving. It does make me feel bad that people thought the process wasn't fair. That's not what we want coming from city government, that there was sort of different communication and a last minute change. It's not ideal in the process. There's reasons that happen that I think are understandable, and I think our staff understand, and we understand that we don't want that to happen going forward. So I want to thank the people who did come to speak in opposition to the motion. I know it's hard to speak out when you're in the minority in a public arena. So thank you for coming and being brave and giving that input. Given where we are, I think our choices between this sort of continued operation and a sort of efficiency, our staff are super stretched. And my choice is between, do I want our staff focused on the short term, or do I want our staff focused on the long term? So given the input tonight, my interest is really that our staff is focused on the long term. I really like the plan for the long term. I really like doing community input to inform the RFP. So I really appreciate staff setting up those meetings and providing the information on those meetings. Again, as Councilmember Harper brought up earlier too, really want to sort of revisit what are our sort of goals for the center? What do we want to accomplish for the center? Certainly we want to keep this sort of family vibe alive, but I'm really interested in hearing from the community how we improve the center going forward as well. So I'm going to support the motion, but just wanted to share some of the struggles and appreciate the people who spoke out. Thank you.
Does city attorney want to say something before the mayor? Yes?
If I could, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to ask the maker of the motion to clarify. The staff's recommendation in the report, I think, was for the 4 months and 2 1-month extensions. Just wanted to make sure, since there was a disparity in the draft, that we clarify that.
I'd like to stick with the 2-month options that's actually written in our attachment 4.
Okay, thank you. And the second, Mayor Pro Tem?
Second concurs?
Concurs.
Okay, good. Yeah, I support the motion. I just want to be, I do have to say that it is a reasonable point that this interim agreement and assignment of the Lloyds agreement, which goes all the way back, by the way, it was signed by Peter Buffa, who I happened to run into last night at dinner in 1998. So it goes back quite some time. And this process could have gone better. It really, what happened, I think, is we thought at the city that it would be adequate to have the Parks and Recreation Department do the interim piece. And then when the hours were posted and they were different, we got some pretty spirited feedback from the community, which is good. I mean, that's the point. And as the Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, that's why we're here. That's the service that we provide, is to have access to the community, so you have somebody to complain to send an email to, and then we follow up as appropriate to address the issue. And so we did do that, and we did do that fairly proximate to this meeting within the last couple of weeks. I have to say, though, that that all stops in terms of the timing piece of that. You're still all welcome to provide the information, and we want you to do that. But the next step to choose a permanent operator will be extremely deliberate. We're starting that process with the town halls, and we want to hear from you at the town halls and otherwise. And the interim provider will be able to participate and will be able to be an applicant, but will have no inside track. I repeat, no inside track as a result of being the interim operator. Okay, so I want you all to follow this, keep our feet to the fire, and we're going to make it through the RFP process, and we're going to get eventually a good RFP out and pick the very best and most qualified person to lead this tennis center into the future. So I support the motion. Call for the question.
All right. Councilmember Reynolds. Yes. Councilmember Harlan.
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez.
Yes.
Councilmember Gameros.
Yes.
Councilmember Harper. Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Mar.
Yes.
Mayor Stevens.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right. Congratulations, everybody. Let's plow through. I mean, I don't think we really need a break. If you guys, we're going to go on to the next one, so kind of file out as quietly as you can. Our next item is new business item number 2. Madam Clerk, would you please read the title?
Thank you. This is the acceptance of the OCTA grant and award a contract for Baker Placentia Victoria 19th Street.
Hold on one second. Madam Clerk, let's just allow people to leave. 2-minute break? Let's do it. Let's do a 2-minute break just so people can clear out. All right.
Oh, wait, we were in.
That's okay. We're back. We're back. So, Madam Clerk, would you please read the title?
Thank you. This is acceptance of the OCTA grant and award a contract for Baker Placentia Victoria 19th Street Regional Traffic Signal Synchronization Project. Presentation by Mr. Seth Rahman, Public Services Director.
Mr. Seth Rahman, you have the floor.
Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, we are very excited to bring to you this project. The project title is Traffic Signal Synchronization Project along Baker, Placentia, Victoria 19th Street. But we want to point out that the main purpose of the project is actually a lot of active transportation improvements that are built in this project. A signal synchronization project, this will achieve improved traffic signal synchronization for all modes of transportation. This includes improvement for movement of cars, but also for pedestrians and bicycles. We are procuring quite a few new equipment that will provide safety enhancements, especially for bicycles and pedestrians. And we are, again, OCTA does not have a grant program that we can apply for active transportation, but we are using the signal synchronization program, $1.8 million worth of signal synchronization project funds to advance active transportation in our city. Just want to quickly go through a couple of slides that talk about signal synchronization, some of the myths and what we are actually trying to do with this project. The first one is that the synchronized signals increase vehicle speed and capacity. This may be true for a city that does not synchronize signals. Then the first time they do it, yes, they will show a better improvement in speeds and how cars move through the city. But city has been coordinating signals for 30 years. So our signals are working. Now what we are trying to do with this project is we are adding more time for pedestrians and more time for bicycles at our signals. And this, then the pictures next to it show how a signal synchronization program is done, and it's done by creating a time-space diagram. And this diagram shows how you see the red lights and the green light and the yellow lights. That's represented here in bars at each intersection. The goal is to time such that the signal coming up at the next signal starts when cars show up at that location. And we can time it in different ways, but usually what happens is because of the cross-street traffic, because of pedestrians, it's really hard to achieve a coordination that is at speed limit. If a car goes within this particular band that's shown in here, they get a green light. If they speed up, they hit red lights. Again, if they are too slow, they also hit red lights. So they have to be in a narrow band of speed to be able to hit a synchronized signal network. And recently, we just completed a project on Bear Street. I'll come to that later, but the next one is on this particular project again. We want to optimize this timing so that the speeds are much lower than the actual posted speed limit. We want to achieve a capacity that is workable, that we don't see long queues at intersections that will result in traffic trying to find alternate ways through the neighborhoods. We want to implement pedestrian improvements, which Ms. Rosales will be talking about, through countdown heads, accessible pedestrian signals, and lead pedestrian intervals. And we want to detect bicycles at intersections through latest technology. As an example, we just finished a project on Bear Street where the posted speed limit is 40 miles per hour. But the best synchronization is achieved when cars are going between 18 and 21 miles per hour. So a synchronized network doesn't mean you have to go really fast, but if you're in that band, you will hit green signals. So that's the point behind this one. With that, I'll have Ms. Rosales go over the rest of the presentation, and we'll be happy to answer any questions after that.
Great, thank you. Mayor Stevens and members of the City Council, I'll start with the presentation with the background, and then I'll go into project highlights. So this project, as Mr. Sethuraman mentioned earlier in the presentation, that it's funded by an OCTA grant, a competitive grant. We were one of six. This was one of 6 projects in the entire county to receive funding in 2020. This was the only project that was awarded in 2020 for multiple corridors, and it's one of the largest grants ever awarded to a single agency by OCTA without multiple jurisdictions joining the project. We were awarded $1.8 million in grant funds, which is 80% of the total project cost. And there are 41 total intersections to be improved in Costa Mesa, consisting of 39 Costa Mesa intersections and 2 Caltrans intersections. So this project, as Mr. Sethuraman pointed out, it facilitates active transportation improvements. The project corridors, the 4 corridors for this project are already coordinated. So what this project is doing is to implement active transportation by improving timings at every pedestrian crossing at all of the signalized intersections in these corridors. It also implements leading pedestrian intervals, which I'll talk later and get into more detail about. This project will, the timing of the signals, as discussed, will reduce speeding and increase green times for pedestrians and bicyclists, and then also improve bicycle timing, including bicycle detection, using vehicle detection and green extension timing. And I'll provide a video later in the presentation showing that as well. Overall, this project improves safety and mobility for all modes of transportation. So I'll get into some of the project highlights. So first, this is an overview of the project corridors. The first list shown on the right are the signalized intersections along the Baker and Placentia corridors. Also, this project includes the Victoria corridor as well as 19th Street, and then 2 signals at Baker, at the SR 55, the Caltrans signals. So I'd like to talk about safety enhancements. I'll talk more, I'll have a slide for each one of the boxes on the top. So this project improves signal timing for all users. We'll implement new leading pedestrian intervals, adds video detection for bicyclists, adds pedestrian countdown heads, adds new accessible pedestrian signals, and adds GPS emergency vehicle preemption units. In addition, this project will document efficiencies and with before and after studies. This will include performance measures for active transportation users for pedestrians and bicyclists. It will replace outdated traffic signal controllers and then also includes upgrades to the traffic management center. So in terms of safety enhancements for improving timing for all signal users, what we'll be doing is reviewing every pedestrian crossing and looking at the walk times and pedestrian clearance intervals at each crossing. This will increase the crossing time for pedestrians, which will meet or exceed the standard, which is 3.5 feet per second. Our goal is to increase that and look at areas to improve pedestrian timing. Where we'll definitely be looking is at around schools, around the senior center, and other areas where we can make further improvements beyond the standard. We will also be reviewing bicycle timing at each one of the signalized intersections and making sure that there's ample time for bicyclists to be able to safely move through the entire intersection. So first, I'll talk about leading pedestrian intervals. So what is a leading pedestrian interval? Well, what it is, it's a 3 to 7 second head start for pedestrian to get the walk signal to go into the crossing and enter the crossing before motorists get the green to make turns through the intersection. So this gives pedestrians time to get out there and so they can be seen by vehicles in the intersection. So this gives them, they can establish their presence in the crosswalk. Some of the benefits, it's been documented that there's a reduction in pedestrian vehicle crashes at intersections with the implementation of leading pedestrian intervals, increases visibility of pedestrians, increases yielding of motorists to pedestrians, and enhances safety to pedestrians who might be slower to start as they walk into the intersection. So next I'm going to play a video.
Hi everyone, my name is Brett Atencio, and here at the City of Costa Mesa, we are working really hard to make streets safer for people walking. We're here at the intersection of Sunflower and Bear in South Coast Metro, where we've installed a leading pedestrian interval, or LPI as it is commonly known. LPIs give people crossing the street a 3 to 7 second head start before turning traffic is given the green light to proceed. Allowing people that are walking to establish their presence in the crosswalk before turning vehicles get the green light makes it more likely that pedestrians will be visible to turning motorists. How do you use it? If the street you are crossing has push buttons, you must push the button to trigger the walk sign. When the walk sign appears, you will be given a 3 to 7 second head start before turning cars are given the green light. With these treatments, the City of Costa Mesa continues to increase walkability and safety for its residents and visitors.
A star is born.
So the locations that we've identified 16 locations for leading pedestrian intervals. In addition, we'll look to identify an additional 10 more as part of this project. So the intersections are Baker Street at Babb Street, Baker Street at Mendoza Street, Baker Street at Coolidge Avenue, Placentia Avenue at Fairview Park, Placentia Avenue at Estancia North, Placentia Avenue at Estancia South, Placentia Avenue at Wilson Street, Placentia Avenue at West 19th Street, Placentia Avenue at West 18th Street, Placentia Avenue at West 17th Street, Placentia Avenue at West 16th Street, Victoria Street at Harbor Boulevard, Victoria Street at American Avenue, West 19th Street at Meyer Place, West 19th Street at Anaheim Avenue, and West 19th Street at Park Avenue. I'd like to mention that along these corridors, we currently only have one location with a leading pedestrian interval. So with these 16 locations plus an additional 10, that would give us 27 locations with leading pedestrian intervals on these corridors. So the next safety enhancement I'll discuss is video detection. Video detection is different than in-pavement loop detection. Video detection allows for green time to be extended for bicyclists to safely pass through the intersection. Video cameras can detect the difference between a bicyclist and a vehicle. So the cameras can sense when a bicyclist is in any of the lanes, whether they're in the bike lane, a through lane, a left turn lane, identify the bicyclist and make sure to add green time for the bicyclist to be able to make it all the way through the intersection. In-pavement loops have limited capabilities. One, they can only detect bicyclists that have heavy metal on them, so the heavy metal type bicyclists, and they also only detect bicyclists if the bicyclist is positioned right on the bicycle loop as well. So video detection improves bicycle timing and detection even during nighttime, enables all bicyclists to be detected in all lanes, and provides the green time extensions for bicyclists to safely pass through intersections. So I'm going to play another video. So we've identified 19 locations as part of our grant for video detection, and those locations are Baker Street at Bear Street, Baker Street at Mendoza Street, Baker Street at Harbor Boulevard, Placentia Avenue at Adams Avenue, Placentia Avenue at Estancia North, Placentia Avenue at Wilson Street, Placentia Avenue at Victoria Street, Placentia Avenue at West 19th Street, Placentia Avenue at West 17th Street, Victoria Street at Newport Boulevard North, Victoria Street at Newport Boulevard South, Victoria Street at Harbor Boulevard, Victoria Street at National Avenue, Victoria Street at American Avenue, Victoria Street at Canyon Drive, Victoria Street at Valley Road, West 19th Street at Meyer Place, West 19th Street at Anaheim Avenue, and West 19th Street at Harbor Boulevard. I'd also like to point out we have some additional projects in these project corridors, such as the West 19th Street project, which will be implementing video detection at West 19th Street at Pomona, and we have a pedestrian signal project at West 19th Street at Wallace, which will also include video detection. On Baker Randolph, that traffic signal is under construction, and that will also have video detection. So the next safety enhancement I'll talk about is pedestrian countdown heads. Currently, of the 41 intersections, 31 are already equipped with pedestrian countdown heads. This project will add approximately 60 to 80 heads at 10 locations so that all of the intersections will have pedestrian countdown displays. From the graphic at the bottom, you can see on the left what looks with numbers, and I'll show a video so you can see how that works, and then the old displays that where we're going to be replacing with the new is just the hand and the walk without the actual countdown. So what pedestrian countdown heads do, they're very easy to understand. They show pedestrians what the remaining walk time is when crossing, and it's especially helpful for mobility challenged and elderly pedestrians as well as adults accompanying small children. All right, so I'll play the next video. So this next video is a demonstration of pushing the push button and then getting the walk indication, and now getting the pedestrian countdown or the pedestrian clearance interval, crossing the street to the other side, and then it'll count down to the end of the walk. So the 10 locations are Baker Street at Red Hill Avenue, Baker Street at Coolidge Avenue, Baker Street at Fairview Road, Baker Street at College Avenue, Baker Street at Royal Palm Drive, Placentia Avenue at Wilson Street, Placentia Avenue at West 18th Street, Victoria Street at Newport Boulevard North, Victoria Street at Newport Boulevard South, and Victoria Street at American Avenue. The next safety enhancement I'll talk about are accessible pedestrian signals. So what an accessible pedestrian signal is, it's the audible pedestrian push buttons. And I'll say APS for short. APS, they aid visually impaired persons to assist in safely using the crosswalks. We've identified locations for these placed near the Costa Mesa Senior Center and senior housing. So accessible pedestrian signals, they improve crossings for the visually impaired pedestrians. They give an indication at the beginning of the walk interval, so you can have an accurate judgment of when that begins. Also communicates the don't walk interval as well. This particular accessible pedestrian signals, it exceeds ADA requirements, and it also, another benefit is significantly more crossings are completed before the signal is changed to a don't walk interval. Next, I'll show a video of how this works.
Polara and Lighthouse for the Blind and Visually Impaired present accessible pedestrian signals. Aerial view of San Francisco Bay. Transition to blind pedestrians navigating transit and streets.
Hi, I'm Nicole Cruz, and I'm about to cross this intersection here in downtown San Francisco
using one of the newly installed accessible pedestrian signals, or APS. Accessible pedestrian signals are one of the many tools which blind and low vision pedestrians, like me, rely on to safely navigate the city. Thanks to the orientation and mobility training I've received and the accessible pedestrian signals, I enjoy the hilly streets of our city independently. So, what's an APS? APSs are approximately 12-inch rectangular devices attached to traffic poles at waist level located at street crossings. They can be yellow, white, or black with a raised arrow that you can push to activate. So how do these help blind pedestrians? Where installed, the APS extends the visual walk and don't walk signals into additional sensory formats of audible tones and tactile vibrations. Each APS continuously emits an intermittent sound known as a locate tone, which is audible at 6 to 12 feet from the crossing. Pedestrians use the locate tone to navigate to the curb and APS device. At the bottom of the APS is a button with a raised tactile arrow on it, indicating the general direction of travel. When the button is pressed, an audible command "wait" will be heard.
Wait.
When the pedestrian walk signal turns on, the button vibrates and either a rapid tick sound or a custom walk message will be heard during the walk phase.
Walk sign is on to cross Market Street.
Typically, the locate tone played during the clearance phase flashing hand is a louder tone. Listen and make sure it is safe before stepping into the crosswalk. Once the don't walk signal activates, the locate tone sound plays at a lower volume. This means you should not begin your crossing as the flashing countdown or don't walk signals are on. Each APS has a built-in microphone that monitors ambient sound levels and adjusts their volumes as needed to be heard over the city noise. APS devices serve as an important tool to help increase safety for all pedestrians here in San Francisco. If you want to request an APS installation and live in San Francisco, simply
All right, so the locations for the audible pedestrian signals are Placentia Avenue at West 19th Street, West 19th Street at Pomona Avenue, West 19th Street at Meyer Place, West 19th Street at Anaheim Avenue, West 19th Street at Park Avenue, and West 19th Street at Harbor Boulevard. All of these locations are located near the Costa Mesa Senior Center and the Senior Tower on 19th Street. So the next safety enhancement are emergency vehicle preemption units. We currently in the city, we have over 100 of our traffic signals have the emergency vehicle units installed. And so what this does is when an emergency vehicle, one of our fire and rescue vehicles, approach the signalized intersection, it then preempts the signal to give our fire and rescue a green indication to be able to pass through the intersection, to be able to respond as quickly as possible to emergency situations. I do want to point out that when this is preempted, if there's a walk signal that's been triggered, a walk signal will continue to the end before the emergency vehicle gets the green, because it won't cut off pedestrian crossing. So what this does, as I said, it provides efficient movement of emergency services for fire and rescue, and it helps provide a swift response time for emergencies. So the locations are Baker Street at Pullman Street, Baker Street at Milborough Street, Baker Street at Mendoza Drive, Placentia Avenue at Fairview Park, Placentia Avenue at Estancia North, and Placentia Avenue at Estancia South. All right, I'll now talk about the fiscal impact. As we noted earlier in the presentation, that this is funded primarily through an OCTA competitive grant. That grant amount is $1,773,000. The city match is $443,000, consisting of $243,000 from traffic impact fees and $200,000 from air quality management. This project was one of the projects that was reviewed and approved as part of the fiscal year 2021-22 CIP projects. Oh, also, I wanted to point out, not doing this project could potentially result in the loss of future funding grant opportunities if we decide not to go ahead with the project. So recommendations, before I get to the actual recommendation, this is a cross-agency effort. Costa Mesa is the lead agency. We'll be overseeing the 39 project intersections that are city signalized intersections. In addition, this project supports our city plans. The active transportation elements are called out in the pedestrian master plan, also identified in the active transportation plan, as well as the draft local road safety plan. Caltrans is a participating agency and has 2 intersections as part of this project. The consultant, AET, they were chosen because they were the highest ranked contractor. They have significant experience in active transportation as well, including active transportation projects in Santa Ana, Long Beach, Pasadena, Los Angeles, and San Diego. SCAG, which is the Southern California Association of Governments. You may be familiar with the Go Human program that they have, and the Go Human activities we've done, and including Merrimack Way Go Human demonstration project before it became constructed. SCAG, this project aligns with SCAG's Planning for Safer Streets initiative, and then SCAG also identifies traffic signal improvements as an area to pursue grants for active transportation for improvements such as the safety enhancements discussed during the presentation. Last slide for the recommendations. Staff recommends to award the professional services agreement to Architectural Engineering Technology, Inc. Team to authorize 5% contingency for additional services, and to authorize the city manager and city clerk to execute the agreement and future amendments. And with that, that concludes our presentation.
Wow, that's a really good presentation. So can I ask a question? And then I'll open it up to the council. So this was an extraordinary presentation. I mean, it went from a consent calendar item to a 40-slide presentation. Who was behind the work that was done on that? I want to just give credit where credit's due.
Mr. Mayor, this is a effort by a fairly good team, and I want to thank the city manager's office for their involvement, and of course Jennifer Rosales. From the city manager's side, it's our city manager Lorian Farrell Harrison, Alma Reyes, and Hadassah and Jakar.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to make sure they were recognized. Okay, so do any council members have any questions?
I do.
Of
course I do.
Okay.
Of course.
Do you want to go?
No, I'm
going
going
to go first.
She's going to say.
Chris, that's right. So he can see really on the same wavelength.
Go.
Okay.
I saw Councilmember Reynolds first, so we'll get to
Yeah. Well, first I just want to second the mayor's comments about this presentation. Thank you so much for making the time to do this. It provided a lot of clarity to me on this project, and I think it's really helpful for our community to get this really good communication about the things we're doing to address safety concerns and improve our streets for all road users. This is supposed to be a question period. So I have one question. I appreciate that we talked about how this project will sort of work in concert with the local road safety plan, pedestrian master plan, and active transportation plan. That was really helpful. One of the other things that we're hearing the community talk about, and I think we're all really excited about, is AB 43 and what that allows us to do in terms of reducing speeds in school zones and senior zones, and I think business districts. That's still a couple years out. So could you explain how we can still sort of take advantage of AB 43 and reduce speeds in key areas while we're doing this project? Because the timing's a little bit confusing for me. And maybe if you can use the example of Placentia in front of Estancia High School, where I'm always concerned when I see that 40-mile-an-hour speed limit, knowing how many students are walking in that area.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Reynolds, I'll start and maybe Ms. Rosales can add to that. So we are looking at the AB 43 legislation very closely. There are some streets that we can look into possibly reducing speed limits based on our review. But as you mentioned, a bulk of the changes are going to come down the road in 2024, especially at school zones and some of the safety corridors that we can identify. One thing the project will not do is increase the speed limits. So that's one thing that we know that we will not be asking for that down the road. Our timing based on the work that we will be doing will make sure that it aligns well with the flow of the traffic and also aligns well with our expectation of what the speed should be. But after that, we'll be waiting for 2024 to implement some of the recommendations from that. Jennifer, if you can.
Thank you. And in terms of specific to AB 43, we're also going to be looking at what we can do now versus what we have to wait for in June of 2024, and reviewing the City of LA has been looking at speed reductions as well. And actually, the deputy project manager, his consultant firm is one of the program managers for the City of LA speed reductions. So looking at it so far, and looking at the LA model, we have found that there's at least 3 segments that we can reduce right away. And then we'll also be updating our speed limit survey. We're actually due to update it this year, and then we'll obviously update it in 2024 as well to see how much more we can do. And 2024 is really the biggest chunk. So.
Yeah. Okay, great news. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Harper.
Okay, I love short presentations, but it was still good, and it was interesting, so I do appreciate it, and good acting and good video. One question, in the areas where there's video cameras, are they able to capture license plate numbers, or is it clear enough to identify them? And if it does, is that helpful at all to law enforcement?
Councilmember Harper, the video detection cameras do not identify license plate cameras.
License
plates, yeah, they don't.
No,
yeah.
I got what you're saying. And is it? And I couldn't tell. Is the video clear enough? If you had to get a license plate number, could you get it? I understand it doesn't capture it, but and then the next question is going to be: is the company that has that AI, are they able to develop that AI in the future to add that? Because it seems to me like it's just a great dual use of a really great product, and I'm thrilled we're doing it.
So, Councilmember Harper, currently our video detection cameras, they do not record.
I get they don't.
They count, but they don't record.
They don't record anything.
They don't record.
Oh, so there's no, that would have been a better question, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Nice try. All right. Thank you very much. It's kind of if someone would have thought of it, it seems like a reasonable use to have cameras and capture that as well, but obviously it wasn't thought of. I don't know if it could be developed. And I don't know, do we get software updates, or they improve the technology, they improve what they do over time?
Councilmember Harper, yes, they are improved over time. In addition to video detection cameras, we also have what's called CCTV cameras, which is monitors the intersection. Those cameras we currently are not recording, but they do have capabilities to record. There's a lot of maintenance involved with that, and storage space, of digital storage space, so that's something that we have not done to date in terms of the recording of those.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other council members have questions?
I do. I have a quick question.
You got it, Councilmember Gameros.
I kind of want to tap on what Councilman Harper was talking about. If we have an Amber Alert or something like that, and we're trying to find out where a vehicle could be, do we have the option of utilization with these cameras to try and find a vehicle that we could be looking for or something like that?
Councilmember Gameros, maybe I can jump in here. These cameras are not meant for surveillance or security type of cameras. So these just are at a very different resolution that it cannot detect that particular focused license plate or make of it. You may be able to guess the make of the car, but it's just hard to use that for that kind of purpose.
Okay, thanks. That's all I have.
Anybody else? No? We're good to go? Okay. Public comment in the chambers? Don't see anybody? Closed chambers? On Zoom?
Yes, our first speaker is Jimmy Vivar.
Mr. Vivar, Commissioner Vivar, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Just a few quick things here. So first of all, thank you for the presentation. Also, I'm a transportation engineering associate for the city of LA. So some of this stuff is my bread and butter. First comment I want to make is something was said in the beginning that I thought was a bit inaccurate, that the synchronization would help all modes of travel. And there's really no way in which traffic signal synchronization would help sort of pedestrians or bicycles. It's just, there's no way of telling, if the pedestrian is going to turn off into a side street or something. So, that's just a tiny bit misleading. Two, I would encourage the Department of Transportation of Costa Mesa as well to look at what phasing we could have around schools. And for example, prioritizing the pedestrian phasing during beginning of school hours and end of school hours. And I think of places, Estancia, Victoria, or Estancia, Wilson, near Whittier Elementary School, places along Placentia, along 19th, that people would be using, families would be using to get to school. So making sure that we maybe include, a focus on pedestrian phasing during those hours in the day. Third of all, the 3.5 timing is something that industry kind of gold standard, but 3.5 feet per second assumes a able-bodied individual. And, I think allowing a bit more time as well for some locations, particularly around the senior center on 19th, I think would be very helpful. I think everybody has heard anecdotes of elderly individuals having trouble at Pomona and 19th. So maybe doing, 4.5 or 5 seconds. Next, LPIs are great, but I want to encourage maybe more locations for LPIs. And lastly, I applaud the city for the APS systems, the accessibility pedestrian signals on 19th around the senior center. But I also want to remind everyone that individuals with visual impairments and blindness, such as myself, don't just live near 19th and may need to cross other intersections. So I think we should consider other intersections for these systems as well. And
Commissioner,
in school.
You're on a roll, I know, but you're out of time.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Who's next?
Next speaker, Mark Vucevic.
Mr. Vucevic, you have the floor. Okay.
Cynthia McDonald, please.
Ms. McDonald, you have the floor.
Good evening again, Mayor and City Council members. Earlier this evening, we heard people speaking about Mike Kriza and how his life and his tragic death touched and impacted their lives. Catastrophic.
Hold on one second. Let's stop our time. You're cutting out a bit, Ms. McDonald. So why don't you try again and we'll restart your time. I mean, we'll just resume your time.
Okay. I start over?
No, you don't have to start over. You talked about, okay. You were talking about Captain Kriza, and then why don't you just pick up at that?
Okay. Well, we all know life is short. We take life that should be a priority city. Sometimes that takes infrastructure, mistake bigger, from taking the look of the guy.
Hey, Ms. McDonald, we're only catching about every third word. So I tell you what, do we have anybody else besides Ms. McDonald? We don't have anybody. So
why don't I try turning off my video?
There
and I'll see if
that's much better, whatever you just did. Okay, so you've got 2 minutes and, you know what? Because of all that falderall, let's give you your 3 minutes back. You could start from the very beginning. Go ahead.
Okay. Let's see if I can do this.
Or start where you want to start. You have 3 minutes.
There we go. Okay. Well, the concern with Mike Kriza is that we need to have infrastructure that prevents horrible crashes like that. So unfortunately, during COVID, we've seen an increase in injuries and deaths of cyclists and pedestrians. And it's not a little increase, it's a huge increase. And most of that increase has been due to drivers speeding and being inattentive. So the presentation by staff shows that most of the components of this project are active transportation related. My hope, my greatest desire, is that those components deter deaths and injuries, but often traffic signal synchronization only speeds up traffic. So I'll be holding the city to what was presented in that slide, that it will be beneficial to all modes of transportation. LPIs and increased crossing times are helpful, and we need them everywhere. The visually impaired need accessible signals, especially, near places like senior housing, such as Azalon and Coastal Heights, and our mobile home parks, but really we need them at all major intersections. I do have a question to staff. If I'm in the bike box, like the one at Bear Street, can I get a lead bike interval so I don't have to feel the heat of someone's engine behind me when I pedal off from a red light? So I do support this project, but I will note that we are still dependent on drivers to obey traffic laws. And Councilmember Reynolds touched on this, but the recent legislation that was passed that enables cities to lower speed limits and not get weighed down by that archaic 85% rule. I urge the City Council to adopt the policy of reviewing all major streets in town to determine how the speed limits can be reduced. I'll leave you with this. The proven way to save lives is simple. You slow down motor vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad we got you back on track.
Mark is back online.
Now, Mr. Vukovic, you're back.
Thank you, everyone. Sorry, I've had internet connection issues all night.
It's okay. Take your time. You have the floor.
I wanted to speak on behalf of the Costa Mesa Alliance for Better Streets in support of this business item. I think we're incredibly excited to see a lot of these ideas. I'll even just dwell on leading pedestrian intervals alone. The Federal Highway Administration conducted a randomized controlled trial of leading pedestrian intervals in a few thousand cities where there was a control group and a sample group. And it found that the group that had LPIs had 87% of the pedestrian injuries of the other group. In other words, this really simple technology saw a 13% decrease in pedestrian injuries. I'm really proud of the city for working and installing technologies that are overall pretty simple, that will actually make it safer for Costa Mesans to get around. I don't necessarily see this item as encouraging more walking and biking, but it's making it safer for those who do. And I think that's a really noble goal. I also love that we're using this kind of technology that has been traditionally used to make cars go fast to actually have them use hit the speed limit. One of the things that I understood about this project over time is that, if you were going 30 miles per hour on a 40 mile per hour road, you may hit every single green light and you won't get rewarded for speeding because you're going to get stuck at every single red light. And that's going to actually change motorist behavior to making our streets more livable. I also want to talk about the APS system, which I find is so important, not just for people, just as Commissioner Vivar mentioned, not just for people in the senior center area, but for really all over Costa Mesa. I know people in my own life who just struggle to see a little bit farther than they used to. And that can be a really, really big deal when it comes to a crosswalk where there's dangerous vehicles all around. So overall, we are incredibly supportive of the city for doing this and supportive of them using the grant in this way and really being creative in that way. I think the one kind of caveat I want to bring is that this in the previous council meeting was embedded in a consent calendar item, and the public documents were a somewhat boilerplate PDF from the consultant that didn't really go into the details of all of the wonderful aspects of this project. And I guess what we want to say to the city is, before CMABS writes a 4.5-page letter with footnotes and all about why we're so distraught about this project, to really provide the public all of the documents about what the city is doing to make Costa Mesa amazing and better. Because I think I was amazed by this presentation, and I think council was too, and I hope that the rest of the public was too. And I wish it was just in the document packet in the consent calendar item 2 weeks ago. So I just want to appreciate the city, and I hope everyone votes for this, because it's going to make Costa Mesa a safer and more livable place. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom? Okay, I'll close public comment and entertain a motion. Okay, in that case, I'll move to approve the item.
I'll second.
Okay, so Councilmember Reynolds seconded. So anyway, I think this was a consent calendar item. I'm very grateful to the public for raising issues about this, and to Councilmember Reynolds for suggesting that it be withdrawn and us to take a little extra look at it. I'm also very grateful and appreciative of the work that was done on the presentation, as I said before, by the city manager's office, Hadassah, Alma, and also Raja and your team, and Jennifer and Brett. You've got tremendous presence on camera. And so I just want to reflect on something. So it's I do believe, and I think I heard at one point in time Chief Lawrence saying this, that like really one of our biggest threats to public safety, to actually creating injuries in our town, is traffic incidents. And, more than, say, violent incidents or domestic violence or something of that nature, which are also very serious, but just in terms of numbers, we see more injuries from people that are not paying attention, or issues that we have on the streets. And I just share a personal story. My daughter's boyfriend was just run over by a car in West Hollywood. And it was in January, and I was just texting him because we were going over this. I wanted to see how he was doing, and he's just kind of getting over it. He's just going to PT. It's 2 months later. He had a skull fracture. He was in ICU for three days, and he had follow-up surgery. He had the fire was right on scene. He would have been dead if not for the the firefighters that responded and got him to the hospital, to the ER, and into the emergency surgery. So all of you working together, you see police, fire, and then traffic control, and also public works, everybody working together to keep the community safer. And over the last 5 years, how many times have we done that? We've been here dealing with issues pertaining to traffic safety for the whole time I've been here. You know, starting with, I remember one of the first votes I had was the medians on Placentia. And we've seen medians go up primarily to slow people down and to reduce traffic incidents and deaths throughout the last 5 years. And then even in the video, there was a depiction of a new crosswalk that we have on Fairview and Village Way that it has just been put in within the last 6 months. So not only is this good, and it is an extraordinary that we have a $1.77 million grant, but it just demonstrates and illustrates a whole history of many years of a commitment that Costa Mesa has to traffic safety, and we're not done. You know, as one of the commenters said, I think it was Russell Toller, kind of the next frontier here is to make our streets less kind of foreboding or intimidating to bikers and pedestrians, and that's something that we're working on, and that's a very worthwhile thing as the new frontier. But you've done some really good work. This represents some really good work. I'm very proud of what we've done here, and as my daughter's boyfriend said, we're doing a lot better in Costa Mesa than they're doing in West Hollywood, that's for sure. So you're the second Councilmember Reynolds.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you to staff. Mayor Stevens called me out. I did pull this off of our agenda last week because all my alarm bells went off when I saw traffic signal synchronization, and staff knows I sent some diagrams where I was like, this is in front of a school, and this is in a high collision zone, and this is in a high pedestrian zone, and what are we doing? Why are we doing this? So this presentation was really helpful in sort of turning my perspective around to say, oh, okay, so the goal here is not getting more cars through at a fast pace. The goal here really is centered around making our streets safer for all users. Lower speeds makes roads safer for people in cars too. Can I ask that we just show slide 10 from the presentation? And I'll follow up on that. I wanted to follow up on one comment from the mayor too. Really appreciate your comments and the discussions that we've had here related to, you know, safe streets being a real safety issue and the importance of slowing vehicles down on our roads. Is that up? Yeah, great. And I want us to move our goal from just, you know, our streets being less foreboding to pedestrians to sort of the ultimate goal of walkability, that our streets are safe, convenient, comfortable, and pleasant. There's a really wonderful book called, oh gosh, I think it's Walkable City, and it talks about sort of those are the 4 key ingredients for a truly walkable city. I wanted to show this slide to just emphasize the focus of this work on all road users, right? We see parents and kids, people on bicycle, people walking their dogs, people in wheelchairs. Many people in our city don't have a choice but to walk or bike or roll. People who have cars want those options as well. And so I really appreciate our staff considering all users and really prioritizing our most vulnerable users. Some things I really like about this project, first, of course, lower speeds, right? We know lower speeds are safer streets. I showed in the last city council meeting sort of this direct relationship between speeds and risk. I really appreciate the enhanced pedestrian timing and longer crossing times. We've heard that especially on 19th Street where we have lots of seniors or people carrying groceries across 19th. I've enjoyed the leading pedestrian interval at Victoria National. Crossing Victoria can be a little bit scary, so I really appreciate that, and I'm glad to hear we'll have more of that in the city. And then some of our community bike rides have experienced moments where the video detection would have been really helpful. Our group got sort of split up between signals, so I see a lot of opportunity there. So, and then of course, as Commissioner Vivar mentioned, the accessibility improvements for people with different mobility impairments or blindness. So thank you to staff for not only pursuing this project and using the TSS funds in this way, but also to really putting together a great presentation. I hope we see more of those videos. I think talking more about all of this wonderful work we're doing will be really beneficial to us and to the community, who I think is really supportive of all of this work. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Do any other council members wish to speak on this item before we call for the question? Council Member Chavez.
Thank you, Mayor Stevens, and thank you, staff, for this really, really detailed presentation. I was prepared to support this item last week, and I'm glad we pulled it, because now I got to see every little intricacy of the project and every benefit it gives. And I think for me, there's a couple things I want to highlight on this. The first is the fact we got this much money from OCTA. That in itself is remarkable. Having a staff that you can see for sort of Foley and my day job is remarkable. We got that much funding, and I want to applaud our team for doing that, because this is going such a long way to ensure we have safety for our pedestrians, safety for our bicyclists, and ensuring we can actually regulate the speeds cars go. Because as mentioned before in staff and by the speakers, if you're speeding, you're going to hit more red lights. That's a good thing. We want to encourage people to be going at a safe speed, especially considering the fact that this goes through, Mesa Verde, which is a residential neighborhood. It passes through a high school, and it passes through a park. And furthermore, I think it's a good first step for the future vision of that corridor on Pleasant Boulevard, right? As we reshape Costa Mesa, as we look at the future and we see where we can put housing in Westside Costa Mesa, one of the places where it really pops up is on Pleasant Boulevard, because if we build there, we're not going to displace residents. And having these metrics in place, having these safety mechanisms where we're able to regulate speed, we're able to have more safe pedestrian walkways, that's only going to make it more likely to be a more walkable and safe community. So I applaud staff for this. This is a great, great project. And again, great for our future of Costa Mesa. Thank you.
Do any of the other council members wish to comment before we call for the question? I don't see any red lights. So let's call for the question.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Harper? Yes. Councilmember Gameros?
Yes.
Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Mar? Sorry, I went out
Yes.
of order here. Councilmember Reynolds? Yes. Councilmember Harlan? Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Mayor Stevens?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Excellent. All right, good. Okay, so we don't have any more business items. Do any of the other council members have anything that they wish to add to their reports? Councilmember Reynolds.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to give a shout out. I got some news tonight that my nephew, Orrin Reynolds, earned his yellow belt tonight in Hapkido. So I wanted to give him a shout out and a quick round of applause.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so, and then I learned something. It's not as fun as that, unfortunately, but our retired battalion chief, fire battalion chief, Gerald Porch, died today. And so I want to add him to the people that we're going to adjourn the meeting for. Battalion Chief Porch was a resident of Costa Mesa. I lived in District 2 in right over off of Belfast in Councilmember Gameros' district, and he's also the father of Debbie Kronfeld, who many of you know through youth sports in Costa Mesa and soccer. And Debbie and Tim Kronfeld are very active members of the community. So, remember them in your prayers, that family, Battalion Chief, Fire Battalion Chief Gerald Porch. So we're adjourning the meeting for him, also for 70-year resident and Gladys Rafakis, and of course, Huntington Beach Officer Nicholas Vella. We're adjourned.
To close session.
To closed session. We're adjourned to closed session.